phone's lost in calibration between South Africa. Namaste, everybody. Hope you guys are all well. Hope you're smiling, thriving, jiving, and everybody just taking it easy while you're all arriving. That nobody is out there drinking and driving. I've got an angry bird here. Are you angry with Daddy? What has Daddy done to you? Hey? What has Daddy done to make you so angry? Oh, because I went strokey, Daddy. No, don't you dare stroke me. I did not. Okay. Well, there you have it. Angry bird on the morning. Hope you guys are well, those that are arriving. We've got Toby back in the studio.
Sorry about that. I wasn't logged in to my StreamYard, so I can share this to my YouTube now.
I get you. I get you, brother.
Yeah.
Well, it's been way too long, but it is what it is. We've all had adventures. My boy had a cough adventure. I decided to rescue him from his cough adventure by getting his cough. He needed Daddy's antibodies. So Daddy drank from his cup, ate from his spoon, kissed on his lips, got a little bit of the cough, said, here you go, take some of Daddy's antibodies. And now he's well, and I'm recovering. But it's an honor to be here with you as always. You look well, man.
It's the sun, man. It's the weather. We've had such great weather here. It's been
that's what it is.
Really hot, nice. Do you know what? Wow. I can't remember the last time it rained. It would be nice to have the odd day of rain, but to be honest with you, I'm loving the sun, man.
A Brit missing the rain. I never thought I'd hear that. I never thought I'd hear that said. Like, you know what we need? We need a bit of rain, like no rain for way long. We need like lots of rain here.
Yeah. Well, not, you know, the plants and the grass could do with a bit, you know, because we've been picking blackberries, and there are quite a lot of blackberries on the bush, but they're quite small and very dry because they've not been able to like absorb as much water. They're usually like nice and big and juicy, and they don't usually start ripening just yet. So yeah, they definitely do with a bit of water.
Well, let's get ready to roll and do a bit of rocking. Namaste to everybody that's joined the sesh. Hope you guys are all well. Let us know if the audio is messing about. I just moved my mic, so there would have been a momentary reaction. But how's it sound on your end? Does it sound good?
Yep, sounds good on my end. Yeah.
So everybody, I'm going to be using my sexy voice today. That's because I got a cold, so please endure. My girlfriend says she likes it when I got a cold. I'm like, I'll have to do it more often, baby. So, yeah, I've thrown the kitchen sink. I've thrown the kitchen sink at this. I thought it was the only way to handle it. Because we're talking about alien agendas. And when we're talking about alien agendas, we've got 3 aliens in the room, right? Me, Agathon, and Toby. We're all aliens, man. In this world, like, none of us belong here. I'll tell you that much. We come from a place so far away. And but we're stuck here in this flesh palace of, you know, crystallized gunk. We got to sort of crawl against the Illuminati waves of excrement as they fling it at us like naughty monkeys. And but in terms of the 3 aliens in the room, we've got the aliens that like do up there, down there, out there, wherever it is, there, here, there, elsewhere aliens. Then we've got the aliens that invade cultures. And maybe it's not specifically through a fault of their own. Maybe it's just because of poor governance. But when you speak out against this, people say, you're racist. No, not racist. We're talking about culture. We're talking about people having the right to live with the culture that they were born with instead of being forced to change their culture. I wonder how long it is until women in England will have to wear the hijab. What do you think? Will your granddaughters be forced to wear a hijab whether they want to or not?
I don't know. I'm going to have to start off with disagreeing with the first point that we're aliens. I know you're joking, but people do think that we're from like different star systems, and that all we have to do is just basically transcend our spirit out of matter. Whereas I'm the reverse. I want to bring spirit into matter, and I think that's what like a lot of us are actually trying to do, is like bring spirit here rather than trying to like transcend or leave this world and stuff. But I feel like this earth is my home, but the invaders or the aliens are not us. The invaders and the aliens, as it mentions in the Emerald Tablets that we've spoken about before. Sorry, my mic is really far away. In the Emerald Tablets, it speaks of these beings that come up, and this is happening now. It seems like there's this something coming into this realm which doesn't belong here, and it's not us. It's not humans. I very much believe we do belong here, and perhaps there was a time where we were able to live just off breathing air, like breatharians. But now we've been conditioned to, well, not just air, but being able to live by drinking fresh water from the core of the earth, being able to breathe air, just being a bit lighter. But there's your mic's muted if you're talking to me.
No, I was just making sounds with my mouth while you're talking to check that my mic's online because I moved the laptop.
But yeah, what I sense happening is that there's something come into this realm which doesn't belong here, and it's not humans. It's something else which is only just starting to be made visible, and we call it AI or artificial, something that's fake. So they're trying to turn humans fake. They did it by having like loads of filters on social media. Even social media as a start makes people fake. And I think that what's happening with all of this division of like red, blue, like this kind of electromagnetic spectrum, they're trying to split and create a void between men and women, race, gender. All of this is so that they can basically use that power, So it's going to be an interesting conversation today, because with the word alien, I've always thought aliens sounds like AI lens. Like an AI lens, an artificial intelligent lens, is something you look through which make things seem fake or not real, or just something you don't recognize. So in America, they call immigrants aliens because they don't recognize their culture, I guess. If we saw beings come from the sky that we didn't recognize, or we weren't familiar with, I think it's a better word, we'd call them aliens. But I sense that their alien invasion isn't people or beings from like in crafts. It's actually like something a bit more kind of quantum. It's something that comes through us, through humans to start off with. So yeah, and it's really interesting. Me and Esme were talking the other day about the difference between race and culture, and that when people are being racist or they think something is racist, it's not actually anything to do with the race, it's to do with the culture. But that's something we've forgotten, and I think that no one really mentions anything to do with culture. It's all race this, race that, but really it's about culture. And the last thing I'll say is that I would class myself as a pagan, potentially, maybe. Just, whatever that means, being connected to the earth, to spirit. I'm interested in all different like mysticism from religions, from the depths of whence they came from, but what I forgot what I was going to say there. Basically England, not the UK, not England, Albion was invaded a long time ago by Christians. But now you have the Christians saying that we're being invaded by Muslims, being invaded by Islam. And we're going to get into that in a bit, I'm sure. And maybe there's something to it, but also you've got to look at the people who are pushing that narrative. Whose payroll are they on? You've got Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk. Elon Musk pushing this like digital AI infrastructure. You have Tommy Robinson, obviously part of the IDF. He said openly, Israel first. Elon Musk wants Tommy Robinson to be our prime minister, if you can imagine that. So you have people pushing these narratives, which there has to be some truth to it. With all these narratives, there has to be something there that they can get behind. But I think the real invasion goes way beyond people from other countries. This is more of an invasion of the human psyche, which is happening, which people are oblivious to because they're so caught up in, oh, they're coming over here to my country. Well, actually, we were invaded a long time ago by Christians who took over this land, and no one's talking about that.
Yeah, man, brother. You know, I like that you jumped in on the alien thing. Oh, I didn't mention the third alien. The third alien is alien intelligence, aka artificial intelligence, because that damn thing's alien. It doesn't come from it ain't from my world. It ain't part of my family. That thing you need to take it out back with a shotgun and put it out of its misery. You know, we need to lynch that damn thing. Good old fashioned lynching. That's what you miss about the good Wild West. You know, you just don't get a good lynching anymore. And we're getting back to the alien thing. Gosh, Gotham's talking a lot. Hey? You know, when I say alien, I mean it from the meaning of the root of the word. I want to jump into a little bit of word magic. How the Illuminati play with our brains, and brains with our play. They brain with our play. They turn our play into their thinking adventure, and they think out our play while they play with our brains. And our brains become playthings, and, you know, we play with our brain things. So, sounds like a Slim Shady playing with the brain with the plain thing. Gonna make it out, gonna find a little plain thing. Trying to make it plain, you know. So, Elion. Now, this is very interesting because we see the roots of this word in obviously Hebrew and Paleo Hebrew. Well, we'll be told that it means the Most High. Elion means the Most High, and it's a root of the word Aleph and Lamet, which are essentially the beginning, the ox, the bull of heaven, and Lamet, Libra, the scales, and the goad that drives the bull. Together, they form the forces of creation that moves the powers of the sun. For the sun moves across the ecliptic of Libra to define the length of the day. And where the sun rests upon the ecliptic or upon Libra's breast, shall we say, when the sun suckles on Libra's breasts, that's when the days are the same as the nights. It's a special time of year. So there's a lot of interesting ideas astrotheologically to touch on here. But when we take the Alyon, which we were told is Hebrew, I think Hebrew's been polluted and convoluted, and they have deployed a psyop mind machine to get Hebrew out of our vernacular. We jump it back a little bit. We look at Arabic, and we look at let me get a little bit of the magic on the screen for you. We look at, take the volume off, and voila. So when we go to, is it on the screen? Yes, it is. When we go to look at this, like, so it's deeply embedded in the Hebrew tradition. The roots and titles stem from shared North Semitic Canaanite linguistic heritage, appearing in ancient Phoenician, Ugaritic, and Aramic texts as an epithet for the supreme deity. Now, they didn't mention Arabic. I find that very interesting. So, Al, the generic Semitic word for God or chief creator, God in Canaanite. Okay, this is what we mentioned, the Aleph and the Lamet. The Lamet is the power of Libra that drives the sun, and Aleph is the life force and the prana, the bull of heaven. Together they form the law. Alyon, derived from the Semitic verb, and I want you to pay attention. Allah. Oh, the Semitic verb, Allah, meaning to ascend. So when they're saying Allah Akbar, what they're saying is we want to ascend. Allah means ascension. So, New Agers, you're going to have fun with this. Yep, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's all about ascension. That's what the Muslim tradition's really all about. These roots of these words go way, way back before Arabic was even thought of or had been considered as the after effect of a meal that tasted good that would one day become a fart. It hadn't even reached that point. In fact, the meal hadn't been prepared, nor had the ingredients been grown, nor had there been a plan to consider possibly planning out the following decades or centuries of seasons in which to grow the particular produce in which to make that meal. So there's something to think about. So, the historical cultural context is also interesting. The prominent use of Hebrew Bible, the broader Canaanite, Phoenician cultures used Elion as a divine title for their highest gods. So, when we're talking about the word alien, what are we talking about? It ain't no mistake that they got us talking about aliens when we're actually talking about the old gods. Now, suddenly the old stories can make a lot more sense, right? A lot more sense. Like we look at those old mythologies and the ancient technologies, the story in the Vedas, why it was that these deities were flying around in vimanas in the sky, right? What was that about? Namaste, I open 59. Star of Maloch, hope you're good, hope you're smiling, hope you're thriving, hope you're jiving, and you better not be drinking while you're driving. But it's great that you've been arriving. So that idea of the alien is a very interesting thing. When I think of myself as being an alien, what I mean by this is that I think that this world that we're living in has been shifted away from its original vibrational field. So we're not living in our home world because our home world is being sculpted into a matrix, and they have matrixed our reality into their version of our reality. And we're technically, from my perspective, aliens in their sculpted reality, when our true reality is one of divine realization and recognition of the interdimensional potentials and extra dimensional nature of reality as a fractal universe that's pouring out of us through this field of consciousness with infinite potential, with infinite scope of where to be and how to evolve and how to change. Hence, we can change reality. And I agree with you that we are here to reclaim our true reality. So that's my little tongue-in-cheek little, like, when I'm playing with the words of alien. But I do think that, like, the concept of what's being given to us as aliens is an important conversation. And now when we start talking about the alien intelligence or the artificial intelligence, the AI, I think it all starts to add up, doesn't it? When we start to think of what the word alien really means. What do you think about that as an idea?
Yeah, there's so many different streams which are all coming together with this AI and alien agenda, blue beam, like destabilizing of countries and stuff. Just the pot's just being mixed up, so people don't really know what's going on. They don't know what's real, like who to believe, you know. But I think it's really interesting. Just kind of, I use the symbol of the pyramid or the triangle quite often to help make sense of stuff. So I've made a little drawing here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. So yeah, there's so many different ways that this can go as well. I've done the number 9 as purple, which is a mix of red and blue, but also a little bit of green in there as well, to sort of symbolize illusion. So the number 3 I always equate to the father, which is further, which is red shift, which is the furthest light spectrum we can see on one side out into space. And the pata, so pata I think in Sanskrit means father. So that's like the pattern, like the light codes. And then this would also be the mind and the zinc spark. And what's interesting is that Rothschild means red shield. So for me, that just screams red shield is blocking light, basically. They're focused more on the matter, like the more Ahrimanic sort of energy. So the matter is the frequency in which we're in, which is the body. And then the number 9 at the top, of course, the 9th letter is I, which is the I on the top of the pyramid. And so I think, is it, you correct me, Franklin, but is it Punjabi? Ark means I and big brother. And so we always talk about big brother watching us, which is kind of like the eye in the sky on top of the pyramid, this pyramid structure we've kind of been forced to be a part of. Well, we're divided on politics by left and right, this kind of push and pull, electromagnetic. You can visualize this as spinning like this, as a vortex. And if we don't have an anchor point, like if we don't have sort of a frame of reference, we get caught up in this spin because they pull us one way, they pull us the other way, but they take our power straight up the middle. And this I is individuation, which would be the opposite of this sort of collective hive mind, which is self-realization. And when people don't have that, they call them NPCs, which I don't really like that term, but it's starting to come quite clear that there's more and more people not thinking for themselves. And this is where they want us. There's quite a lot of noise outside, so I'm just going to go shut my window because they're doing stuff outside. It's quite noisy. One sec.
Yeah, brother. I think coming from the roots of Aya, because I know in Vedic, in Hindi, Aya means to come here, to bring to me. So it's sort of similar to your idea of going up. Instead of going up, it means to bring to me, which means to bring to the center. And so that central column, bringing to the center, produces a central column of this up and down. Does that make sense? Of centrifugic and centripetal potentials.
Right. Also, I just need to add, because I wrote down ARK as an AKH, and of course, that's the union of the cart and the bar, which is I always think of the bar simply as like as the more of the body, or the bird, the bard, the frequency. It's our frequency, which when we're dreaming, again, correct me if I've got this wrong, but so it's the human-headed bird which travels when we're asleep, like our soul, basically. But also it could be our individual frequency. So it's the bird, which is the bard, which is the sound, which is our unique frequency, which travels to like beyond the firmament, beyond the solid mind. It goes out of the box. That's our unique frequency. And the arc is a balance of the cart and the bar. So the ka is the vital essence, the life force, the spirit, which spirit and mind are kind of synonymous. So that's what the top of the pyramid, this I, is a sort of union of these two. And it's interesting because Ark also means I and big brother. So it's like having your eye on the ball, like you're having your own unique signature, recognizing that, but also being able to recognize that in others too. But this is the kind of soup they want us in, is kind of just spinning around in circles, not knowing who we are, where we've come from, where we're going, so that they can insert another inside of us, like another bar, another frequency inside of us, so that we don't have our own personality, our own unique frequency. We're just freaks, but we're all the same kind of freak. Yeah, short for frequency, but we're all the same frequency. We're all one. It's like, no, we're in oneness, but we all have our own unique souls, and the soul would be this is what it comes down to basically. There's Harry Potter shows them as dementors, but there's soul eaters. There's energy, whether it's just people, you can prove it's people and corporations literally wanting to extract stuff from us, whether it's our energy, but really at a core level, it's our soul. Soul, SOL, is another name for the sun. That is our spark, our life force, our chi. They want to take that and extract that from us. And I think that all of this stuff, this Project Bluebeam, this fake alien invasion, I don't think it's fake. I think it's happening now, and it's been happening for a while, but it's not aliens. It's more of this fake AI lens that they want us to perceive this. They're trying to turn the world basically fake, so that we think we don't belong here, so that we stop, or like especially kids stop wanting to integrate into this realm, you know, with their eye, by observing. It's basically like spiritual blindness or whatever, so that people are just focused on their screens. So what I mean by this blue beam is that LED lighting has a blue light, and this is a blue beam which is being projected onto us. Blue light from our screens being projected onto us. And at the same time as blue beam, you have Rothschilds, which is red shield. So they have their shields up, stopping all of this, this extra things coming into this realm. Perhaps this is what Starlink's doing, putting a shield up, sort of enclosing this space so that we can't tap into the all mind. So people find it harder to kind of branch out, because there's so many different waves, like so many EMFs and stuff around us. People become hypersensitive, and then they put headphones on. You know, if you're autistic, you're hypersensitive, you have the bit, or ADHD, you're able to tap into this potential. But unfortunately, they get drugged, shut down, put headphones on, put in a safe space, and closed off. Whereas really they should be trained and stuff, but they're treated like there's a problem with them, kind of thing. So yeah, going off on a bit of a tangent there, but I just wanted to show this kind of divide of this red and blue, that Rothschild, which are responsible for a whole banking infrastructure, everything that's wrong with the world, basically. Like so much that I won't get into. But then at the same time, we have this blue beam. So we have the shield of the red, but we have this blue projected. And at its core, the blue kind of represents the matter, which is the mother in which we're in, which is this reality. But it's more of the kind of, it could be more of the kind of materialistic view, which is the more Ahrimanic energy, which is just focused on the matter, rather than focused on the spirit, which is from outside this realm. And what the powers that be do is they're able to tap into this power and bring this things into this realm and create it how they want, but only for a few. Whereas most people are just stuck in the base material matter view of things, just the more physical. And the science has a huge part to play on this, which of course the Rockefellers are hugely responsible for, probably funded by the Rothschilds as well. So there we have the red shield blocking this light, so to speak. And later on, I'd like to get into more of this union of light and water. I view the light as the kind of red and then the water as the blue, because there's a symbiosis happening here with these data centers as well as us, as well as the earth. So yeah, I'd love to get into that later.
Yeah, brother, a lot of good information popping out there. I want to ask you a question. Right in the beginning of your thing, you started mentioning the blue light. Have you managed to find warm light bulbs for your home yet in the UK?
So we don't have, the short answer is not really. We've gone for like warmish lights. You have like warm LED, but if you mean incandescent light bulbs, they're very hard to come by.
No, I know. The England is really shitty. I found some incandescent light bulbs, but they tend to pop very fast. But when you've taken your warm LEDs, are they proper yellow light?
They give quite a nice warm glow, especially
3000K.
Do you know what? I haven't checked that, but we do have this light in the kitchen, which is like this long strip, this fluorescent light, which we never put on because it's like proper like white light. So we never use that. We've got another light in here, like a light bulb, which gives quite a nice warm glow, and it's got a kind of, our lampshade's got copper around it as well, or like copper effect. So the light reflects off of the copper, giving it kind of a nice deep glow. Yeah. But what's interesting, what's interesting is that we've got a solar eclipse here today in the UK, which is quite full. And there's a lot of fear mongering with it, saying to not look at the sun because it will burn your eyes. But the thing is, with LED lighting, I looked at the sun yesterday, like midday. My eyes were fine afterwards. And if I look at an LED light bulb, like a bright one, like a really bright one, if I look around, I've been able to see loads of that light reflected. Like it's scarred my retina. But they don't tell you to wear glasses in front of LED lighting. So like this blue beam, this kind of blindness I was talking about, this for spiritual blindness, is quite deep because it can literally cause blindness, LED lighting, and they've put them everywhere, and it makes everything so bright, everything's so white, and it's so unnatural that looking at the sun is nowhere near as dangerous as staring at an LED light bulb. So I find that quite funny, that there's lots of fear mongering with the sun, but when it comes to these unnatural things, it's like, no, put them everywhere, in hospitals as well, because they're actually very detrimental for our health, not just our eyes, also your body as well. I think with a, like infrared lighting or saunas is really good for you. And obviously at the opposite end of the spectrum, the blue, that's cold. That's bad for you. You want warmth. You don't want cold lighting when you're trying to heal.
Sorry for that delay, people. I was fiddling around finding my StreamYard link. I sent you a couple of links, by the way, just for like proper 3000K. Check your box of your light bulbs. 3000 Kelvin tends to be a good temperature. Like I've switched out all of my lights in my home to 3000 Kelvin. I can't tell you how much better my boy's sleeping. That bloody blue light, man. Bad news. Bad news. I also got a whole lot, gave them to my girlfriend. I was like, please, because she wakes up in the night. She's like famous for waking up at like early hours of the morning and then going back to sleep. And, I was like, try the yellow light. Just try it. You'll see that blue light just messes with your head at night, And I think it's the blue light. The more blue it is, the more it burns your eyes because it's closer to the ultraviolet frequency. Infrared doesn't affect your eyes like that. It's more relaxing. But ultraviolet, my gosh, you look at an ultraviolet lamp, you're like blind. Look at an infrared light, yeah, it's all good. Not good for your eyes if it's high wattage, but it's not the same. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what you're saying is so on point. And getting into you were talking about the Illuminati, the witchcraft, the sorcery, the word power, even the use of the word alien, right? They've got us calling each other aliens, right? I thought to just take a moment, and I think we should get onto the water issue. I think it's important because it's got a lot to do with the brain remodeling. But I wanted to just get, while we're on the alien topic, obviously we all know about Project Bluebeam, right? Everybody should know about it. If you don't know, then get yourself connected. The writing's on the wall. If you're not connected, maybe you might fall, in terms of the alien agenda, the way it's being presented, and the ancient old gods, who were these old gods? Were they like beings from other planes of existence that came to teach us knowledge? Who was Odin? Was he from another plane of existence that came here? Who were the Olympians? Who were the Sumerian, the race of Anu's offspring? Who was the Devas and the Asuras of the Vedics? Who were the giants? So there's a lot of this in our history, and I really think that the idea of alien, you see, they took away our history and told us it was mythology. Yeah, that was the first trick. That was like some heavy, powerful sorcery, man. That's mind dark magic. Playing games with words, convincing us that our history isn't history and that it's just a fantasy. And then supplanting it with his story. Oh, well, that's not history. That's just fantasy. But here, his story. Yeah, you can count on it. Who was that guy who wrote all the Roman histories under all the pseudonyms? What are his names? What was his name? Josephius. Anyway, I can't think of his name right now, but you know who I'm talking about. Most of our histories that we have of the Roman and the Greeks is written by the same bloke. And when you dive deeper, he had pen names. And when you dive deeper into those pen names, some of them were of those pen names writing under pen names. So one guy wrote probably like 60-70% of all of the history we've got from the ancient times, which is ridiculous if you really get into it. And there's information out there that you can find it if you look. It's still in text. You can still find it. But speaking of the alien agenda, the AI alien agenda, I want to touch on to it with the book burning adventures and the aliens in our cities. How are you going to protect your woman, right? When you have to go and work, right? And she goes, I say your woman, I hope she's not offended, but your lady, like you're the man, so you're responsible for keeping her safe. She's responsible for keeping you nurtured and keeping the kids nurtured. You're responsible for keeping the kids safe. That's how my brain works. I'm old school. I'm the man. I got to keep my kids safe. It's his mom's duty to keep him nurtured. My duty to make sure that nobody comes to like this ain't no place to piss, buddy. Pee over there. You know what I mean? Don't throw your weight around my kid. And or his mother or my girlfriend, kind of thing. Like that's a no-no, lad. So how do we deal with this when we've got a corrupt law that has been shoved down our throats? How corrupt is it that if some dude causes trouble with your missus, you can't lay him out flat? And like, you know, like what's wrong with the world? Like you should be able to lay a dude out flat for causing trouble with your missus, and it should be completely in the old days. If you laid a dude out flat for messing with your missus, oh no, he messed with his missus. Oh, he did. Oh, no case, right? These days, you lay a dude out flat for messing with your missus, and you become criminalized. There's something wrong with that story. People can mess with your kids. You let them out flat, you're a criminal. Like, what world are we living in? In the old days, a dude messed with your kid, like, he's barely alive. Yeah, but he did mess with his kid. Ooh, he messed with his kid. Wow. He's still barely alive, so he's okay, you know? Like, there's a lot that's twisted with the law. And Alien has got to do with the law, right? As well, the sacred law of the high. So they've taken this the law, which is supposed to be alignment with the sacred law. Sacred law is go and mess with a bear cub and see what mommy bear does to you. That's the law, buddy. Like mess with the bear cub and see what happens when Papa Bear comes out and goes, "You're messing with my bear, baby." You know, one swipe or two, sunny side up or sunny side down. You choose. You're going to be either way. So that's one element of the issue. The other side of the story is that our culture is now being divided and polluted. And when I say divided and polluted, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with alternative cultures. But I'll give you an example. Like the British have their own culture. The Gaelic have their own culture, right? Even if that culture was hijacked and affected in the past, it's still your culture. You have the right to live the way you want to live. You should not be forced, like, oh, well, we've imported those people from there to here. They don't want to come and play by our rules. So we now have to start playing by their rules. Since when is this a thing? Oh, yeah, but they don't like our laws. They prefer Sharia law. So we need to start integrating Sharia law into British law. What's this nonsense? Why is British law changing to meet other law? You want to come to our country? Sure, come to our country. Why not? But you come here to be a part of our country. You don't come here to change our country into your country, right? And that's like it's about respect for culture. If you go to another place, and I struggled with this when I was first traveling as a younger guy. I'd go to India and I'd be like, oh, that's just wrong. What you guys doing? From a high horse of like, I come from a better culture. This is the right way. And then I stopped and I looked and I realized actually their system works in a way better than our system. There's problems with their system and there's problems with our system. But who the hell am I to tell them that their system isn't the right system and my system's the right system? And it made me really stop and ask questions about just how much have I been conditioned, right, by my culture, and what right I think I have to go there and expect them to change to accommodate me. And so I had to make adjustments to myself and go like, well, I'm in their land. This is their culture. If this culture was Vedic culture for thousands of years, who the hell am I to come here and try and change it for them? But that comes from respect. When you start to respect, when you're not a racist. When you are a racist, you go to another culture and you expect them to change to your ideals. So, is there a racist agenda being implemented on a large scale to dissolve cultures to the point where you end up with race wars on the streets? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's trying to be orchestrated because some people I follow on Instagram who are in America will be sharing a video of something that happened a few months ago, which is unrelated. And they're like, the UK has fallen, it's been invaded, this and that and that. And then I look at the comments and thankfully there's a lot of people that live in England are like, it's not. I mean, I'm not sure what's happening in Ireland. I'm not so up to date with that. I think it is kicking off there, but where I am, the south of England, not so much. And also, I've just searched what Sharia law is, and it says core meaning and scope. It's divine path. The word Sharia means path to water. Personal duties. It covers daily prayers, fasting, charity. I mean, probably there's some negatives. I can't I can't find anywhere in the UK that this is being pushed upon people. Far from the opposite. Like what I see happening is blue beam, which is detaching people from God, the true essence of God, being our highest frequency, connection to the earth, nature. We're being disconnected from that. Our water's being siphoned off into data centers. I can't see that call to prayer is being pushed on people, or the path to water. Much the opposite. I looked yesterday, and 6G towers actually work better when it's dry. They don't work so well when there's moisture in the air, water. So I'm thinking, right, is there an agenda to perhaps siphon off our water, drain our rivers so there's not so much moisture in the air, so that these 6G towers work better and they're able to transmit information better and stuff? So, I can't really talk about Sharia law because I only know a little bit about it that I've just checked. It's probably got negative points too, but, so does all things. But I think this mass immigration, which is clearly orchestrated, although if you say that, is usually people on the left, they're like, "Oh, you're racist," straight away. People are blind to where the power structures come from above. It's like this is all orchestrated. Well, what happened at first is that after 9/11, orchestrated too, we went and invaded the Middle East, destabilizing them. And then when Gaddafi, we were told he was a terrorist, whatever, he was actually he was in the middle of building a pipeline so that Libya had fresh water. And he also wanted a gold-backed currency. He basically wanted independence. But what NATO did is they bombed his pipelines of fresh water. Now, this is what this vampiric system does. It seeks to drain the life force, which is water. Water is the life force, and this vampiric system seeks to drain our energy, like to suck the life out of us, of the earth, which is water. Water is the life force of this realm. And there was this whole narrative that Gaddafi was a horrible person, and he had a deal with Italy. I think it was like £5 billion a year. Libya was being paid. They were getting a lot of money, able to do a lot of great things. And what happened was when NATO got rid of him, it allowed for mass immigration from Africa into Europe. And that got the ball rolling with what's happening now. Like, none of this is organic. It's been done on purpose because I think the only way they're able to divide people is by mixing things up. Like if we didn't have all this mass immigration and stuff, people might be a bit more united. If we didn't have all this gender ideology, people would be a bit more united. But people seem to not focus on the power structures from above, where this trickle-down effect comes from. They're just left, right. And I know I mentioned earlier, people on the left, very quick to call people racist if you mention something that they haven't looked into. But that's just from experience. As well, I would say that people on the right, I'm talking about far right, far left, you come full circle, but they tend to cause more judgment. And even on the judgment tarot card, there's a St. George cross flag. And that's the flag people have been waving, who are casting judgment upon others. And then you have on the judgment card, the trumpet at the top, sending out a frequency, Pied Piper, and people are dancing to the tune that's been broadcast by this Elon Musk and Tommy Robinson. And I just want to mention on the etymology.
Musk and Trump, the trumpeter.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to mention a bit of etymology, if it even is that. But El meaning God. Also El in Spanish means the. and Theo is another name for God. So let's break that down. You have El is God, but also El is the. Theo is also God. So you can think as God as the O. What's O? O is feminine and O is infinite. It's infinity. So El really just means the infinite or the. So El being God, you may as well just say the isness that is everywhere and that we're in. So I find that very interesting that El is God, which is masculine, but El is also the, which in Spanish is a masculine term. But if you add an O to the end of that, you have Theo, which is another name for God. But if you split Theo, you have the O. So you have the, which is masculine, and O, which is feminine, which is Theo, which is really the true essence of what God is, which is the O. Another word for O is the all. And then Allah sounds like all hour as well, just all. That's how I've always seen it, is when people are going Allah, a name for God, they're just saying all. And I know that's not what it means, but when I've got my own tuning system where I hear things, I kind of try to dissect it and I simplify it. So Allah is all the. It's the same as El, the same as the same as Theo, Allah. It's just the all. They're just all they're saying is just the all, and you can't define it as one being this or that. But they people do try to do it. They're like, no, it's this deity, it's that person, or you've got to pray to this one God. Where is this God? It's like, mate, we're in it, and this with the alien or AI agenda, is that we're at a very interesting time, because this blue beam detaching people from God, fake alien invasion, we have to be detached from source to create a void so that it can be filled with the artificial, which is this AI. And then this AI will be worshipped as a deity. Maybe that might be Elon Musk. And I just have to quickly mention before I forget, because I watched a kids movie recently. I'll try to remember what it was, but there was an alien invasion, and then this robot saved them. And I've been thinking for a long time that if there is going to be a fake alien invasion orchestrated, if AI were to save us, and this AI would be created and pushed by Elon Musk, maybe Tommy Robinson and his boys have something to do with it, but mainly Elon Musk as the head to save the day, people would worship Elon Musk like he was a god, because he's made this technology, or perhaps they'll worship this AI like a god, because we need a savior archetype. Unfortunately, people are waiting for someone to come and save them, and that is going to be Elon Musk if you keep waiting, because really the savior is all of us. That's why we're here. That's why they need to divide us. But I do see that, I sense that is what's going to happen, that there's going to be some kind of event which is going to be saved by some kind of AI. So then we're going to give our power away to it and idolize it, even more than people are doing now. But I just have to throw that out there as we're on the topic before I forget, and then bookmark this for in a few years if it does happen.
Yeah, brother. You started off by mentioning the trumpet. Interesting to see that Elon and Musk are blowing each other's trumpets again. They seem like they're back to matrimony. They had broken up, but they're back together, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know who's blowing whose trumpet. Is Trump blowing Elon's trumpet, or is Elon blowing Trump's trumpet? Either way, they are definitely going to trumpet together. And it's a sign of the times when those two get together. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, only they keep switching positions, right? The one's a good guy, the other guy's a bad guy. They play good cop, bad cop with society. And it's usually, the evil twit sayer that plays good cop, and Trump plays bad cop. And then when Trump's played bad cop and people start hating Trump, then the evil twit sayer starts playing bad cop, right? And then Trump looks good again because the good cops turned bad. It's like a heavy kind of a occulted psyop, and it's very esoteric the way these two carry on. If you look at the whole performance, and I like what you're saying. I brought up on the screen here.
Just quickly, that's the same narrative as Sam Altman and Elon Musk as well with open AI, because Elon Musk was saying, no, we have to make sure we kind of put a lid on this. We need to make sure it doesn't get out there. And he was filmed saying, yeah, we really need to watch out for AI and stuff. But really, Elon Musk is the one pushing it. Like, let's get it straight, But people will believe what they hear. They'll be like, no, Elon's a good guy. He's one of us, He's not. He's not. No trillionaire, no billionaire is. Come on.
He's on his way to being a trillionaire fast. If he keeps on with the AI, he'll be a trillionaire in no time. So, yeah, I've got this image here. So for those that don't know, the 23 Dublin riots, right? 2023 riots were triggered by knife attacks outside primary school, right? And this is a recurrence. They play their dramas again and again. In that particular one, in November 2023, it was children. I was trying to remember if it was a woman or children or a girl, but now I see it was 5-year-old girl critically injured, right? And so here once again, we have viral videos of a knife attack in Belfast, right, on 26, where a Sudanese man was basically grabbed for attempted ending of life, right? So now they're talking about severe anti-immigrant, racist rioting. So they bring people into your country that don't respect your laws. And they go to your school and they start stabbing the children. And in the process of stabbing 3 kids, one of which is a 5-year-old little girl that gets like life-threatening injuries. The teacher, who's a woman, trying to protect them, puts herself in front of the children and she gets stabbed too. Now, what kind of sick nonsense do we have where people are going to schools? I'm not quite sure what the latest stabbing was.
I can tell you. I can tell you what the latest. A white woman in London stabbed 3 men, but she wasn't a terrorist because she's white. Again, I've just searched, and there was a suspect in stabbing of 2 boys at a school. This is about 5 months ago. There was a 13-year-old suspected of stabbing 2 boys at a secondary school, but it wasn't treated as terrorism. And I've checked. I was like, he was British. So you're only a terrorist if you're not white, and you can check this anywhere. There's no mention of any terrorist who's white. It's just classed as mental illness or something like that. And attacks like this are horrible. Of course they are, but they're weaponized. Because there was a man who drove a car through people.
Tell him I'm coming.
In the UK, he might have killed somebody. Everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, it was a terrorist attack. It was a terrorist. It's bloody brown people." He was white, and he was in the military.
I'm just going to check in a package at my gate. I'll be 2 minutes. Can I leave you for 2 minutes?
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you. Please continue, brother.
Yeah, sure. So, our tuition isn't the IRA classified as terrorists? Yeah, I think they are, but it seems that anyone who's a terrorist is anyone who goes against the grand plan. call it the New World Order or the Old World Order. Anyone who goes against the order. So people who are in solidarity of Palestine, rightly enough, they're classed as terrorists, right? But if you're waving Israel flag, you're not a terrorist. So you know, you're allowed to wave one flag but not the other. And then you'll have people who see people waving these flags saying, why are you supporting Palestine, this and that and stuff, you know, they're coming over here. The thing is, Palestinians aren't coming over here. Just because they have a different skin color, you think that they're from Palestine. But everything's just so, I get why people are confused, because people don't have the time to research and look into stuff. And what we have to do is we have to be prepared to this is where I'd say the element of water comes in, is that we have to constantly be prepared to shift and alter our perception of reality and us and narratives. Let's look at 2020. The color for the year is blue. That was a huge shift for Operation Bluebeam. That's when all these LED lighting started coming into play in the UK. Lots of other stuff to do with blue happened then as well. I'm pretty sure around then, was it the Maui fires that people spotted that all of these things that were blue didn't get burnt, which means that whatever hit them from above would have been blue. Frequency of blue is 6.66. That's the blueprint of the beast system, it seems. But like back to what I was saying about water and shifting and altering our perception, is that we have to come at stuff with a fresh perspective. It's like even now with Fauci and the COVID narrative, it's not about what happened as such. The story that they're trying to put out there is whether it came from a bat to a human or from a lab. They're trying to push the lab stuff still. So I'm of the understanding that it's neither. I always walk the middle path, and I let the bullshit nonsense on this side or that side spin around. I'll break down the word mystic, synchro mystic. Is the sync, is you can visualize a sync as our mind, that information comes in, like water comes in. Water carries information, memory, you know. So that's our mind. That's the sink. And you let stuff sink in. You let it come into you, right? Sinking in. So sink, and then the row is the reverse osmosis, which is the filtration system, which we have under our sink, which spins the water and gets rid of all the heavy metals. The heavy metals is the heavy information that we don't want or don't need. And the row, you row your boat on the water, that's the movement. The row is the movement. So the reverse osmosis happens here. This is the heart-brain connection, the synchro, which they're trying to split and sever. And the synchro mystic, the mystic is the my stick, which is whatever sticks to you. After you've let things sink in, like come into you, let it sink, and then row. The row is very important that you move. So if you visualize yourself in the center, you let stuff sink in, you've got to spin it. Let it spin, but you've got to be in the middle. And when it's spinning around all this information of lab theory or the other theory they give, it's probably neither. Just let it spin. And then just see what sticks. And sometimes you can view this as like a fishing line, like you're casting out your proverbial rod into the seas all around us to see what you catch, to see what sticks. You can even view the stick as your wand, your wander. When you're wandering, you're deep in thought. So you let it sink, you row, and then you sit with it. But the stick is also the central point. So you can view this as the Sushumna, the Ida Pingala, electromagnetic spin, and the Kath, the bar, the arc, the central point, or the anchor point. And you just let stuff spin around you. And that's what I usually do. and then just to see what sticks. Sometimes you catch something and it sticks, and then it's not so sticky, and then you just let it go after a while. But it's usually the middle way. So you have the narrative of that, and it's the other way. You can see it with all things, because most stuff, or everything, is actually threefold. It's like, it's symbolic, it's physical, and it's metaphysical. If it's all three, then there's some truth to it. But I know, like, we kind of live in a dualistic reality, but really, like, the yin and the yang is the yin yang. But people are more focused on the yin or the yang, and they forget the bigger picture, which contains the both, which is the threefold, the middle way, which is shown here, which is shown in the car, the bar, the arc, all things, really.
Yeah, man. I like where you're going with the stick, the wand, the staff. I kept thinking about my lady love.
You just can't get the staff this day, Franklin.
Hey?
You just can't get the staff these days. So human
Yeah.
We've become the human resources.
That's so on point, man. And obviously, we're looking at number 4, 5, 6, which is the fulcrum and the centripetal and the centrifugal potentials that cause the spinning sensation. And the spinning is between 4 and 6, revolving around 5, the source of movement that is at rest within movement. Mercury. And 8 and 2 are the outer edges of the spinning vortices, right? Saturn and the moon, which makes a lot of sense. This is why we speak about the moon, Saturn-moon matrix, yeah? And everybody will tell you that that's just evil. No, it's not evil. The occultists are using the magical law because that's how you control matter. You want to manifest? All that law of one manifestation is lovely on paper. It's very sweet. It's very cute. It's nicely digested in little blocks. But does it work for everybody? You want to understand manifestation, you got to look at all of these mechanics, the mechanics of creation and how it's revolving around that epicenter and how that stick, staff, wand is what manifests. But like you say, that manifestation is when you're in the center, and if they can move you out of your center, they can hijack your ability to manifest. So that's I think quite important, something that we're facing in the modern day and age. Sorry, I had to step out, by the way, and grab a delivery. They just keep piling it on. I got another delivery coming today. I think it's later. So I think this is really important for us to recognize. We need to be centered. I wanted to also say, I didn't get to say this. So once again, in Ireland, it was children, by the way. So they keep stabbing children in Ireland. What are the Irish men supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? The children that are getting stabbed have fathers. What do you think I would do if my kid was stabbed because he was on his way to school? I'm pretty sure that if like anybody tried to come near your kids with a knife, you'd be out there with a baton finding somebody's kneecaps, wouldn't you? And like readjusting. You'd be doing some proper readjustment, wouldn't you? You'd be like, dude, you're never going to do that again. Like, well, what do you think you're doing? And so it's all racism. Oh, racism. Man, these people have been asking their government to stop pouring in ridiculous numbers of unvetted people into their country that are mostly men. What happens? I want you to understand something. Is that an insect on my face? No, it's a mic. Just checking. I thought I had a thing crawling on my screen. What happens in an elephant community, I used to live in the jungles. When you have too many males and they ain't getting chance to give some stick, baby, because males like to give stick. Let's face it. All males like giving stick. They like wielding the wand. They like using the rod, right? That's why they call us Rodney. Rodney, the stick-wielding wanderer. And it's intrinsic to being a man, right? There ain't no better time of day when you're out there with your lady having a bit of stick play, right? And it's definitely not the way to turn gay. So, you know, when you get right down to it, they're bringing men into your country, right, that don't bring their own country with them. Now, I'm sorry if this is being vulgar, but what kind of a tree are we talking about? The stick belongs in the circle to fulfill the cunt tree, right? The tree of life needs to bloom. And in order for the tree of life to bloom, the wand needs to be embedded within the cunt tree, right? To feed the tree. So you've got these men, think about it, coming into a country, they don't bring their own ladies with them. Yeah? It's mostly men, am I right? Mostly men. And what happens? The men are getting horny and aroused. Only the Irish women are like, you ain't getting it here, mate. Don't come knocking on my door, right? So what are they going to do with all that testosterone? What are they going to do? If you've seen in the wild, when you have elephants that aren't getting to wield their sticks, they go and drink, they go and eat rotten fruit, they get drunk, and they smash up the jungles. I know, I've been next to them. It's scary as hell. Elephants are gentle, lovely creatures, but when they're drunk and they're not getting to wield their stick, when they're not getting to be a wanderer, right, called Rodney, then they get really angry and frustrated. And this is a natural thing in men. You either become emasculated, right, by not having sex, or you become frustrated, which can turn to anger and resentment. And what do? They look at the children. I can't make my own children, so why the hell should you be able to make children? Why do you think these people are out there stabbing kids? And what are the Irishmen supposed to do? Respect to the Irishmen. Respect to them. They're taking their government to task. The government won't listen. Well, we will make you listen. I don't necessarily agree with what's being done, but hell, what are they supposed to do? I don't know. I don't feel that they are being racist necessarily. I think they're trying to protect their women and their children. Because rape is another thing that happens that they don't talk about.
Yeah, well, just on that point, I've seen a video of a white girl at a Tommy Robinson march where they were Tommy Robinson and co were talking about brown people, invaders, and rape and stuff. So that this girl went up on stage and was saying that she was raped by white men. Like, white men do it as well, and she was dragged off stage because that goes against the narrative. So this does happen on both sides, and we need to protect our children. We need to protect our land. But I'm just thinking, where are they from? Are they from the Middle East, or how have they ended up in Ireland? You've got to cross the whole. I'll tell you why. Because Ireland have been speaking up about Palestine. Spain have been speaking up against Palestine. They have been sanctioned. Ireland, they have always gone against the grain. That's why Northern Ireland is not part of the United Kingdom, dominated by the king, old sausage fingers. I think what we need to do is this is like trying to catch water in your hand. It won't work. Like, this, people can keep doing this. Like, people coming over here, you know, from other countries doing horrible stuff. People do horrible stuff in this country anyway, which has been ignored. And this comes as the police are being basically they're getting like less money and stuff. It's basically making way for martial law if this carries on. But I think that, because I always try to look at the bigger picture. Yes, people can carry on doing whatever to protect their children and families where all this stuff is going on. And it seems like it's going on in Ireland, which I don't understand why it's not going on in Kent or the south where I am, because we're much closer. So why isn't it happening here? Why in Ireland? I'm going to theorize that they're being sent to Ireland because this is an invisible war. And just because they're not wearing a NATO uniform, I can tell you that this is orchestrated by NATO. Above that, the British Empire, which is not about its British people. They don't care about you. We are livestock. Hence why my YouTube channel is called Systematic Zoo, because we're systematically treated like animals. Look back in 2020. Did they care about you? No, they don't. So stop thinking that they care about you. Back to the topic at hand, is that the broader spectrum is that to stop the people rising up and rebelling against this corrupt, evil, satanic pedophile system, they've put us against each other. And by each other, I mean by humans. And not all people coming from other countries have like hate children, hate women and stuff. Maybe a lot of them do, but you've also got to remember there's a lot of evil people in this country as well. But people aren't really focusing on that. They're not focusing on like the Epstein files. They weren't from the Middle East. They're not Muslim. You know, most of them are white billionaires, millionaires. I think that if we use this pyramid structure, we have people coming in to invade the land here. But what about the puppet masters? What about the people at the top? What about the people that take 70% of every pound you pay to fill up your car is taxed? You're taxed 40% on your work. So you pay 40% of your wages. Everything you buy in the shop, you're taxed. Where does this go? We're told it goes on our police force, who aren't protecting children, aren't protecting women. They work for the crown. That's why they have the crown symbol. They're going on our government. Government is mind control. We're paying for our own cage, basically, by paying taxes. And I think that the only way out of this mess, because we are in a war, we are in World War III, but we still have food, we still have water, we still have entertainment and bread and circuses. The circus is still rolling. We're in a fucking circus. Yeah, it's a freak show what's happening with so many obese people, so many people who are making themselves disabled, like spiritually, psychically, physically, in the street, glued to their phone. It's a dilemma what's happening. The amount of people wearing Crocs as well makes me sick. Do you know that Crocs were in the film Idiocracy because somebody was paid to make the most stupid shoe possible? And when you wear Crocs, that the plastic soaks into your skin. And the amount of people wearing them, it's like, I know we're in a mix of The Matrix, Idiocracy, Eyes Wide Shut, all of these films, these fictional movies that have become reality because it's a spell, it's magic, it's a program, it's telling a vision, and this vision is coming to play. Where's our vision? Because all we have is division, right? The incision of this vampiric claw system is creating a division, and we're just going around in circles. And with the Irish standing up for themselves, I respect that. I honor that. You know, me and you are both Irish, right? We have the same blood. Yeah, we're of the same stock. Exactly. And I understand and I get it. But we need to really start looking at the bigger picture of like, what do we do? Because it's not these people coming over on boats. that are the problem. They are a problem, but not the problem. So how do we resolve the problem?
Symptom.
A symptom, yes. But of course, this system, I'll say the NHS, they don't focus on the core. They don't focus on where the disease comes from. They just give you a pill. And this pill that people are swallowing is called a red pill. And it's called being awake. And what does blue light do? What does the blue beam do? Keeps you awake. But what we need is awareness, which is a balance of both, the awe and airness. The awe is the movement that I was talking about. It's related to the heart, stuff that makes you feel, the emotional, and the airness is the mind. We need both. But people are so caught up in the awake of the airness. Ooh, or like now, oh yeah, we see what happened during 2020. I'm wide awake. These Muslims coming over it. What do you think about Elon Musk? Yeah, Elon Musk is sound. Well, okay, what do you think about this and that? They stop at a certain point. This is a pyramid. And I want to use the analogy of a snake and a dragon. Is that in the Bible, the snake, the dragon was cursed to crawl on its belly. We are the dragons. And right now, most people are crawling on their belly. They're on the earth. They're stuck in the matter, the material. We need to spread our wings because to fly, you need two wings, right? You need the left and the right. If you're flapping around with one wing, whether you're right wing, left wing, you go with this side or that side, you're going to go around in circles. With this snake that most people are sort of crawling on their bellies, stuck on the matter, the physical 3D, I'm going to say this, but we need to transcend this 4-dimensional cube that we've been given into this 5D, but bring the 5D less dense reality, which is the base reality, into matter. Because all of the people, all of the warriors, the spiritual warriors and stuff, not all of them, a lot, are saying we need to escape and transcend from 3D into 5D to escape. It's escapism. But there's very few who are saying, no, let's bring the 5D back into this reality. So I think really that's how we get past this. Is talking about density. Is everything is so dense of all this politics. The pole eye ticks, tick tock, left, right. You know, that we need to remember that we have this divine fire inside all of us, our spark, our solar potential, our soul, our unique frequency, yeah, which is our unique coding, okay? But we need to get past the patterns which have been basically kind of controlling us. We call them archons, the arc, the story of the light. We need to kind of get past this kind of conditioning, programming, right?
In the world of cryptocurrency, we call them archons.
Yeah. So basically, like my analogy of the snake and the dragon is that, you know, we're told that dragons, but they're a myth. They didn't exist. Dinosaurs, on the other hand, did, and they got wiped out like that. So what this is putting in our psyche is that dragons never existed. That potential's not there. I'm talking about the symbolic, the metaphysical, but also the physical. I 100% believe dragons existed physically, but that's last. First, you have the metaphysical before the physical, right? This is how we bring things into matter. You have the thought, and then you create it. But how can we become like gods? How can we be? You know, we should all attain to become gods, guardians of dimensions. That's what gods are to me. You have the guardian of the dimension of time, Saturn, Kronos, Kairos, whatever. You have the guardian of the dimension of water. You have different types of water, there's so many guardians and gods, you know, and we can tune into them with our frequency. But this freak show that's happening, the clarity that could be of this water that's all around us so that we can connect to each other has been muddied. The water's been muddied. So yeah, I'm not going to rant anymore, but my point is that this snake that we've kind of become collectively to crawl on our belly is that we it's time to transform into dragons, spread our wings, start breathing fire, which is to speak the truth, to share wisdom. That's to breathe fire. So the dragon, maybe it's another name for a person. All of these gods and stuff as well. Why aren't we attaining to become like them? We've given this narrative of, oh, God, the Father, he's further away. If you just pray in this church, or pray to him, rather than it's kind of like there's been a wedge put between us and Source. I'm going to stop rambling now because it's been a while. So it's good to get this stuff off my chest. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Have some
Yeah, man. God the Father, the maker of hot air. You bring up a lot of interesting points, and I totally am on board and agree with you. That these symptoms are surface level symptoms. And I want to point out something. This is something that you don't hear people talking about, right? People say, oh, it's not engineered to be like that. It's completely engineered it's orchestrated. And I want to explain this. I'm a South African. Do you know what it takes for South Africans to come to the UK, England? Well, we need to go to the British consulate. And the British consulates needs our ID details, our passport number, our ID numbers, all of our details, which they then run through the South African criminal database, right? And after that criminal database has been run, depending upon our history, financial, legal, everything, they then might want you to come in and speak to someone. And the someone that you speak to is actually probably got a psychology degree, right? And they're going to be assessing you to see whether you are the right kind of fit to go to England. And then they might even ask you questions about British culture to make sure that you fit the profile of British culture. And if you don't get to go to England. So you explained to me how there are so many criminals being brought into England. It's not an accident that it's mostly men being brought in. What about the children? Oh, no, the children are fine where they are. Bring the men. Oh, right. Shouldn't we be bringing the children to England? Aren't they the ones who need to be protected the most? The women? No. The women and the children stay in the war zones and the men come to England. Oh, right. And the excuse is, we don't have the information available. Come on. AI has been ruling the world for decades now. They can back check the information. Everybody's on phones and handsets. Everybody's been on technology, on the internet. They can literally go and find out the information on each and every person, applicant that they want to bring for asylum. They actually do have the ability to check them. And they should be sitting down with a psychologist, showing them flashcards. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you a bit like, what do you see? There's a knife, there's a child. How does this make you feel? This makes me feel aggressive. Oh, okay, great, stamp. We'll see you. You're on your way to Belfast, buddy. At which point do the authorities not know what they're doing? Right? And this is an interesting point. How does one fight against systemic evil that is so embedded, right? I mean, England was so evil and bad. Ireland had to leave England. We're getting divorced. We're going to join the EU. Well, how's that working for you now? You joined the EU. I'm sure that must be a lot of fun. Now you're in the woke republic. Oh, but you're Irish. Irish aren't woke enough. Sorry. Irish is not woke enough for the rest of us. Let's send all the refugees to Ireland. So Ireland political system sold them out. They joined the EU going like, no, we'll take all the immigrants. Don't worry. Yeah, you don't have to vet them. Men, forget the children and women. We don't need children and women. We need men in Ireland. Why? Oh, well, we need workers. Like there's not enough Irish people to work in Ireland. You know that the building bubble collapsed years ago, the economy for Ireland, right? Yeah, they've got a lot of offshore rigs, a lot of offshore oil, which is now owned by Europe. All the Irish natural gas and the Irish oil and the Irish this straight into the European economy. Ireland sitting high and dry. How does one fight against that? What? You fight against it by going to vote? Really? You fight against it by playing their little game? How does one dispose a corrupt group of illuminati, black magician, witches that are doing dark sorcery? And part of the dark sorcery is like, we're going to get your children. But while we're getting your children, we're going to bring other people to get your children on the streets so that you can't see us getting your children. They're going to get your children on the streets. You're going to be like, our children aren't safe because you know they're not safe. But we'll say, there you go. There's your finger pointing. You can point it at that brown man. Well, yeah, we brought him there. We did vet them, and we statistically recognize that if we can bring this specific group of men to your country, there are going to be children getting stabbed on the streets. It was part of our plan. That way, you don't look at us. You don't get to see who we are. Yeah, Bono, we're talking about you too, buddy. Is Bono still alive? Is he still alive? Is he not alive anymore?
No idea.
No idea. Bonehead. You know?
We'd have heard about it if he died.
You imagine. I mean, that dude's like, let's go venture capitalism, people. Let's go Fortune 500. Woohoo! Let's like throw in our numbers with the billionaires club. So, you know, it's a sad thing that's happening in Ireland, and they've been sold out from one group, sold out to another group, sold out with their resources taken, sold out with their bubble burst economically, sold out now with the wrong particular. I mean, I think that like there's nothing wrong with asylum, but I think it needs to be managed. And when you tell me that you're not bringing families across, I get concerned. You're telling me there aren't any families to bring? Oh, but they don't want families. Why don't they want families? Well, families bring children. Why don't they want children? No, we just want the men there. And now in England, they keep finding these caches of AK-47s and weapons, right? And this is another thing, also orchestrated by the powers that be. What are they planning, right? Because where is this going? When the government and those that control the government push you into a corner, who do you fight? You can't go and fill out a form and sit and wait in an office. It happens on the streets. And I wanted to point this out to you because this is really important. It's an excuse for them to test drive their new toys, right? It's a toy testing convention. Deployed water cannons, extra personnel, used robust response to quell the multi-night disorder. 12 injured officers and multiple arrests. So basically, they wanted riots on the streets. Well done. You did well. You got your riots. All you needed was to make sure that you will put the correct people there that will stab children. Tick. Success. They got their wish. Now they got the riots. Now they get to implement the water cannons. They get to implement like police everyone on the streets with batons beating people up. Oh, well, they're beating up a lot of innocent people because, well, the poor cops don't know what's right or wrong. They just know that there's a lot going on, and they've been told, just get out there with your batons and use them. That'll stop the crowd. And water cannons that can remove your eye, by the way. People lose eyes to water cannons. They're not a joke. And so this is all part of the engineered tactics to basically break our liberty and break our rights. Because the more often, okay, so now they're allowed to use water cannons on the street. What's next? Well, a couple of years down the line, as long as they don't remove your limbs, it's fine. Like, can they like hit you with like metal crowbars and break? Well, he's still got his limbs. He's fine. They'll heal. Like, where's the line of violence against the public? Why does the government not come to the street and say, okay. Let's find a solution. What we're going to do is we're going to sit down and we're going to have psychological tests and we're going to vet each and every person thoroughly. Right? And we're going to make sure and we're going to find a way through the AI, which we do have access to and all the information, to find out the past of these people, because they are obviously bringing criminals into the country. It's obvious, right? And they know it. So why doesn't the government meet with the people on the street to help quell the violence? Because they want it. And now this brings us back to the other alien agenda, right? The AI alien agenda. Because the AI alien agenda is now telling us that we're a bunch of racists. You know, we had a group conversation in my group the last couple of days, and this narrative of these evil white people, evil, horrible, dirty white people, violent white people, white hate, white guilt, the whites. And I was pointing out, like, seriously? Yeah, but the whites ruined the world. They did this thing. They did that. I'm like, have you heard of Genghis Khan? What, Genghis Khan? Yeah. Like, massive empire. Like, have you heard of Alexander the Great? Wasn't white. Did the same thing. Have you heard of the Ashoka Wars up in the Himalayas? The bloodshed. Have you heard of it? No. Oh, have you heard of how Japan invaded Manchuria? Right? If Japan's a tiny little spot, they expanded big time, baby. Have you heard about Africa? Yeah, but look, so many million deaths as a result of the white people doing this thing in Africa and doing this thing all around the world. Yeah? Have you actually gone to look at the history? Are you aware that there were hundreds of wars in Africa over a course of 5 centuries? And that most of the deaths were actually this tribe hurting that tribe and that tribe hurting this tribe and this tribe at war with this tribe. Sure, it was orchestrated by redesigning maps. But that was a big scam that was orchestrated not by white people, but by a small little collective of people that are in control. And they were in control of the richest, most powerful countries. So we are now supposed to, but the whites did slavery. Yeah. Do you know where they got their slaves from? Do you know where they got them from? Because it was a culture in Africa that you went to war with with another group. It was common. You took their land, you took their livestock, you took their women, and the men you turned into slaves that you didn't throw in the sea. And the woman you turned into slaves, and the kids you turned into slaves. Right? That was normal. That was just normal practice. Another day in the office. And then when the white ships came there, the Africans were like, "Oh, we want your thing." They said, "What have you got?" "We got slaves." They were like, "You got slaves?" "Yeah, we'll have slaves." So who do you think was selling the slaves to the white slavers? Where do you think that came from? Come on now. You guys need to go look at the history. Yeah, it's all just the white man was evil. Come on, man. Slavery was a global event. Everybody was doing it. But now we're going to point fingers at the whites, and it's all the evil whites. The point is, everybody's evil. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. And me, I might look white. I'm pretty sure I got Japanese in me. Pretty sure I got black in me. I don't think there is such a thing as pure white or pure black or pure Indian or pure anything anymore. We're Indo-European people. We've got a lot of Vedic blood running through us. I'm pretty sure I've got, look at my lips, dude. If you see my lips, I don't know if you can see them. I got them African lips. And when you see me boogie, baby, ooh la la, this man's got rhythm. Clearly, I've got black ancestry, dude. Try and tell me I don't have black in my genes, I'll knock you out, bro. No white man gonna dance like this. Come on. This doesn't happen. You don't become the diva of a dance floor when you don't have black genes. So you know what I'm saying? Like, all this racist nonsense that's been poured down our throats. Oh, the Germans were evil. The Nazis were evil. Come on, man. Look at the history, right? Look at the history. Look at the USSR. Look what they were doing. They murdered more Jewish people than the Germans. Oh, yeah, but we changed the history. Yeah, well, now that you're digging up the mass graves, we thought that was the Germans. It was the Russians? The USSR? Oh. Next one. Another 150,000 bodies. Oh, This one was also the USSR? Oh, the next one. Oh, wow, you've just pulled out 3 graves, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bodies, and it just proves that those were all 3 attributed to Hitler, and they weren't Hitler. They were blatantly the USSR. Do you think they adjusted the history? No. No, they couldn't have. And the little cabal that rules is so tight that the Austrian author that wrote a book after doing research and sharing his research that the history had been doctored was put in jail for 4 years because he dared to question Germany's role in what happened in the Second World War. And when you look at it, you go and look at just before the war happened. What was Roosevelt talking about? What were all those guys in Europe talking about? They were talking about the invasion of Zionists into Russia, and that was in the formation of the USSR. And they believed that the USSR had been invaded by the Zionists. Oh, but now we're supposed to believe that Zionists are Jews. No, Zionists infiltrated Judaism just like they did Christianity. They hid in Judaism because it was a convenient cover. Once again, blame the Jews, don't blame us. So everybody blamed the Jews. Then what did they do? They got control of the USSR and they started exterminating the Jews. Why? Think about it. There's something weird going on. Our history's been tampered with. The truth's out there, but we don't know what it is. So I completely agree with you. There's an evil cabal of who, let's call them the Illuminati, because that's what they've been called, right? And this little group, whatever you want to call them, we're just using that name because it's a convenient name. Everybody knows that name. They're basically black wizards, black magicians, dark magics, practicing deep sorcery that involves children. We know it. Let's try and pretend that the Queen's butler wasn't running a ring of child fingering mongrels and that the Queen didn't know, right? And Princess Di was trying to talk out on it. And what did they do with Princess Di? They said, live up to your name, sweetheart. Her own husband was like, I'll sign the paper. Just say where. How much is it going to cost? Consider it done. Taxpayer, pick up the bill, please. Get rid of the Princess Di. She's in the way, So what are we dealing with here? And this is global. Oh, of course, it's just a coincidence that Hollywood is full of child fingerers. Are you serious? Just a coincidence? Oh, and all of the American presidents are somehow connected, many of them to royalty. Who would have known? It was the American public that voted for them. Yeah, of course they voted for them. It was just natural democracy, wasn't it? So we're living in this false democracy. It's a lie. How do we fight it? What do we do? Does the regime have to topple? Or is there a solution to regain control of our own culture? I don't know. What do you think? How do we regain control of what is the positive thing that we can give to people from this conversation? What can people do? Oh, and then we're going to talk about water.
Big question there. What can we do about it? It's probably not the question that's on everyone's minds, but it's the question that should be. What can we do about it? Because we're always given a bogeyman. I remember it was like the white van man once upon a time here in England. Don't let your kids play outside because the white van man will get them. And then emergence of technology. And now it's like, oh, okay, it's much safer to be on technology. But then if you look into technology, we can see that really it's not safe for children in lots of different ways. But I think that's where they want children and people is to keep them docile, glued to the screen, not focused on the real world, so to speak. But I think what we can do about it and them is I think it's very important to be connected to the earth and to nature and to our human nature, because you have the climate change agenda on one side making us fear the sun, you know, think we're going to die all the time. And then you have the immigration making us fear humans, making us think that we're going to die all the time. But really, I think that if we're like everything that's happening, if I cast the scope out wide, like I always do, is that they're trying to detach us from our humanity, from our connection to the earth, to source, to our highest potential. They're trying to squash us down. So they do this by making us fear. In 2020, it was COVID. There wasn't any terrorism then, and now as soon as COVID went away, there's Iran, the bogeyman. And then there was, at the beginning of the year, there was meningitis. That went away. They keep rolling out new things. There's always going to be a bogeyman, but it's not real. What is real is the divine spark in every single one of us and animals. And if we're connected to, like, the thing is, we've been detached or separated, or we feel distant from our authentic true self, which is our inner child, which I would say is the top of the pyramid, the I at the top of the pyramid, the I, the individual, which is our own individuation, our inner wisdom. And that, I think, is very important that we connect back to that. And that's an inner thing, it's not an outer thing. So we'll keep having this fear of the outside world, and even the fear of the dark, the fear of the underworld, the fear of the unknown. But really, that's what we need to step into, because this white light that's been shined out in the world, this illusion, this propaganda, and it's not to say that it's not happening, that there's bad stuff happening in the world. There is, but it's a distraction, because it's what's the word? It's hyper inflated, and they'll never broadcast something which they feel like we could have a solution for. But long story short, I think that the only way out of this is because this is to make way for the artificial, for the fake. They want, civil war. They're trying to stoke the fire with war, with Iran, with Russia. They're trying to stoke civil war as well. They're trying to cause chaos so that they can build from it. They're literally burning the world. Lots of places where they want data centers or solar farms, there's been wildfires just in that spot. They can create clouds from nothing. I've watched a video of Jeremy Clarkson, who was a host of Top Gear, a video of him creating a cloud from this machine. We know they can manipulate the weather, and they do, but they choose not to. So, they can manipulate us, they can manipulate the weather, they can manipulate the food, they can manipulate a lot of what we need to survive, which can stop us thriving. But I think that the only way out of this isn't by getting guns and even shooting the head of the snake, because I think that it will just turn into a hydra. I don't think that will even if we did that, because I've thought about that. I've thought, why aren't there people who have money, like dressed up, have the gear, get some helicopters and go and take these people out? Because that won't do anything. Yeah, exactly. And that won't do anything. I think the only way out of this is just recognizing the humanity in others. But I think first we have to recognize the humanity within our own selves. And I think there's a lot of self-hate in the world. People are programmed to hate the way they look. At a deep core level, they feel, humans feel guilt, and it comes from birth. And because of this guilt, it creates a void inside I'll say our psyche, our core, and people fill it with stuff: drugs, alcohol, sex, food, all of this stuff. buy, consume, just keep filling it. But they stay out here. They're not taking the inward journey. They're getting all of this other stuff to do the inward journey. Food, they're trying to stuff this void. And then this void now is going to be filled with this artificial, so that people are going to start altering themselves. You have influencers who are doing all sorts of things to like alter themselves. You look at people on the world stage, they look fake. They don't look real. Are they, some of them, actually AI bots? Maybe, potentially, they're testing it out. There's a lot going on. So the only way out of this is to recognize our humanity, give yourself a bit more self-care, and remember that we're all dragons. We're dragons, and dragons are not evil. Dragons are protectors. They're plasma beings, and they're protectors of this realm. And we're protectors of this realm. And we've got to remember that nobody's coming to save us. Jesus isn't coming back. There's aliens aren't coming. You know, there's going to be a holographic light show, maybe, whatever. Imagine if no one's coming. All that is the parasitic elite and us. Now, who's going to do something about it? It's us. It's the individuality. But we need to start talking to each other. And I think that from my experience over the last 5-6 years of like not being ready to go on podcasts and talk to people about stuff and feeling like way out of my depth, but then it got to a point where I was like, I've got to do this. I go and start talking and stuff, even though sometimes I talk about stuff that I don't quite understand. But that's how we understand, is we question. We keep asking. The question is a quest with our ions. We're on a journey, and we're all on that journey. And I think that there's like a lot of gaslighting. If you're not an expert, people are like, who are you to talk about that? Well, who are we? We're the protectors of this realm. We're humans. We're humanity. So I think the only way out of it is to, if we see anything that's happening that's wrong, someone being attacked, we need to step up and do something about it, regardless of their skin color, because it's not just brown people that attack people, like children and women, white people too. And the real threat, I think, is the amount of people that are still in a trance. They're transhumans, sleepwalking through life, through the world, oblivious to what's going on. They are the real threat. But we can flip that, because these, what people call NPCs, empty vessels, they're not empty. The spark is in there, but because of trauma and because of conditioning and programming, they're stuck in a pattern. So what we need to do is we just need to keep speaking our truth. Just say anything in front of anyone. And if they don't want to hear it, whatever, they can go. But some people, they'll want, if somebody hears someone speaking the truth, that will ignite something in them. So what we have to do as dragons is keep breathing fire, and then that fire, that spark, will reach other people. And in turn, like a metronome, is it not a metronome, a tuning fork. Other tuning forks will pick up on this frequency, and then this light, like beacons, will start spreading. And this light isn't necessarily a white light. I'd say it's a black light. It's a black light which can't be consumed. All it can be is blocked, and this black light in people is being blocked at the moment. And the term to be damned, if you think what a dam does, is it blocks water. When these dams are brought down, people's potential is going to flow. They can open up the gates to their inner worlds, their core self, you know. So I'm rambling a little bit. It's a long answer to your question, but I just think that the real power is in us as individuals to keep speaking our truth, because there's so much bullshit out there of these stories and narratives and propaganda and this or that, it's them, that really, if we just keep speaking our truth and come with the perception that our things might shift. Like our perception of reality might shift. We need to just not be stuck in one mindset, is my point. That we just need to be open to narratives and stuff changing, just expansion. But like this expansion, like I'm going to use like a kind of a spiral. This expansion isn't necessarily going outwards. It's going in and out at the same time, like a toroidal field. And this is what we need to be stepping into, is this toroidal energy, because we can get, and like for me personally, I'll stop rambling in a sec, because it's a long answer, apologies. But for me, I get energy from having conversations and talking and learning and stuff. We can get energy from around us. We don't necessarily have to get energy from, we need like some water to survive. Some people drink just 1 glass of the correct water a day. You don't need to drink 7 glasses of water. You just need to consume the right amount of stuff, right amount of food, the right amount of water, not overconsumption. But for me, I get energy from talking and listening and learning and growth and stuff. And I think that more and more people are starting to let their barriers down, and they're more inclined to shifting their perception of stuff, especially since 2020. Not everyone, but I think the only way out of this is just keep some people will call me nuts for my perception of stuff. It's quite broad. I look at the bigger picture, more bigger than people can see with a limited view. It's a picture which has to expand over time for you to be able to see it. And I don't care if people think I'm nuts, because what I live for is just shifting people's perception of themselves and reality. It's like when people are, oh, I've never thought about looking at that word like that. Oh, I've never thought about that concept. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for, is to give people a little bit of water, shine a little bit of light, so their seed, the spark, can flourish. So that's what we do. Is we turn this back into a garden, because like there's lots of potentials all around us called humans, but people feel it's not safe because of this fear. And the only way out of the fear is called this frequency called love. But first we need to have self-love, so we can expand this frequency. We have 5G towers, 6G towers, Wi-Fi, all of these other frequencies. But the frequency that we have inside of us is much more than that. 10G, whatever. We can go past that, move past that. But the only way by doing that is recognizing the potential inside all of us. And I'm going to say that it is a godlike potential, that we are creators. We're guardians of dimensions. And there's a reason, Franklin, you spoke about before how all these data centers are named after gods. There's a reason for that, because invoking the power of these gods, that's power, and we can do that too by invoking the power of Odin, Hecate, all the gods. They come through us. We're channelers for that, but people don't realize that. People don't realize that there are the powers that be do. That's why they're doing this high magic with these data centers.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what it is. And it's I wouldn't even call it high magic. I'd call it like, well, it is high magic. It's just the wrong kind of high magic. The kind of high magic that makes you low. I think the solution, in my opinion, is a simple one. It's public civil disobedience. However, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here, and you heard it here for the first time. I want to unveil something. Let's just call it the 12-step program. Hallelujah. Am I hearing it? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The 12-step program. Okay, so I'm going to try and invent a 12-step program here quickly, which is the solution for how to enact the social disobedience, civil disobedience correctly. It starts off with step 1 of the 12-step program. Be aware. Pay attention. Step 2 of the 12-step program. Get informed. Do your research. Step 3 of the 12-step program. Start having conversations on forums. This way you're exchanging ideas. Step 4 of the 12-step program, which is the first season of 4, is find your tribe. When you find your tribe, you've worked through one season. Season number 2 starts. Step 5 of the 12-step, I hope it's going to be 12 steps. It better be 12 steps or else it's going to be a 10-step program. We'll see. So step 5, you found your tribe. What do? Right? You start to collaborate with your tribe. You start to collaborate with your tribe and get a community within your tribe. Step 6 of the 12-step program, you get that community and you start strategizing. You need a clear strategy, right? Is that step 6 or step 7 strategy?
6, I believe.
Once you've got your strategy, you then need to start energizing your community. You need to start taking this into the public domain and start actually finding a way to expand your community into the public domain. There are people in the public that don't know. Educate them, they will know, right? Step 8 of the 12-step program. You need to do your homework and your research. You need to, not your homework and your research. You need to prepare yourself psychologically and emotionally for the acts of civil disobedience because there will be consequences. Step 9, you need to go out there and implement the civil disobedience. Step 10, when you're implementing the civil disobedience, you need to protect the others that are implementing the civil disobedience. Step 11, accept the consequences of your acts of civil disobedience. And step 12, show the world what is happening as a result. So it involves speaking to the world. And I think once we do that final step where we share with the whole world our stories, and it becomes a common narrative that the authorities don't want us moving against them. When enough of us are out there deciding, you know what? We don't need those laws. Thank you for those laws. We don't need those laws. We'll keep these laws. We don't want those laws. No, take those laws away. We do not accept those laws, right? What? Corporate private property. No, we don't accept those laws. There's no such thing as corporate private. As far as we're concerned, corporate property was stolen using a maritime system. That's the people's land. We can go there and do whatever we want. And if the corporation calls the police, we'll remind the police who they work for. You don't work for the corporations. You work for us, and this is our land. So you don't stand with us, or you're either with us or you're against us, right? Your choice. But there are more of us than what there are of you. And if we decide that we want to go into the corporate land and do whatever we want in the corporate land, we do it. If it involves 5,000 people with a sound system, some good tunes, so be it. As far as we're concerned, we need to, this is part of the civil disobedience, in my opinion, is reclaiming the corporate. I want to point something out here. This is financial. So there's a 12-step program, proudly yours by the BushWhisperer. I think it might work. But here's an interesting point, the AI bubble. I saw someone doing a little bit of a investigation into the AI billboards everywhere in California. I was like, wow, we don't get that here. Interesting. It must be a thing. And what he said, like he went around and showing the billboards, and he was like, it seems like the billboards are advertising AI services for other AI companies. The people aren't even part of the mix. So it's very, very weird kind of a bubble. Who's paying for this? It made me think, who's paying for this? And so it made me think as well. There are a lot of AI companies that are paying other AI companies to fill the gaps. Why? Okay, so this is what I thought was interesting. What percentage of global money is owned by corporations, governments, and NGOs? And I thought, like, well, what is this? There is no single global database tracking the exact percentage of the money. So they say it's roughly 50 to 75% of the money on the books. If you think cryptocurrency was made for you, think again. Who do you think is ruling the crypto markets? Do you think it's us? 50 to 75% of global money is corporate owned. Who do you think has got the big investments in the cryptocurrency? Who do you think the cryptocurrency is really working for? So let's say 75%. I would say more. I would say 80% is probably not really. I would say it's more like, personally, 85%, 90% of all of the world's money, probably. And that's just the money. We need to think, oh, I forgot religious organizations. Let's add them in there. Add in the religious organizations. Add in civil matters, right? Like your civil municipalities. We didn't add in the global municipalities. When you start to add in the municipalities, because they're separate to the government, let's be clear, you end up with much more than 80%. And then you add on cryptocurrency. What do you get? Right? So most of the money is not in people's hands. How does economies in a fiat system operate? Well, it's all about spending money. So if the American dollar needs to be upheld high, there needs to show that there's a lot of money being spent internally within America. So is it a fancy way for America to launder money within the USA with AI companies paying AI companies to do AI tricks for other AI companies, so that the AIs are renting out the AIs to other AIs that rent out the AI services to other AIs that rent those services out to other AIs, building a pyramid of AI services to keep the money flowing. And it looks like everybody's spending loads of money because the economy is robust, but actually it's the same money owned by the big corporations, and they're just cycling it through their various different AI front companies, shell companies, in order to keep the money moving, so that the rest of the world goes, wow, there's a lot of money in the US. Let's all keep the dollar floating high. Or if not the dollar, what's that new thing? The stable coins or whatever else, cryptocurrency or digital currencies they're bringing out. This is how the game is played. You'll probably find it in the UK. You'll probably find it in the EU. Wherever there's a lot of money, this is probably happening in a big scale. And so this is something that we're not really fully aware of. But I think we need to be aware of this. Most of the money is not in humans' hands. So if you think you can change the world with money by voting for what you pay, what you buy, you can have maybe 20% effect on the entire global economy if everybody stands together. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Coca-Cola. Does Coca-Cola make their money from selling Coca-Cola, or do they make their money from investing it into AI? Are they making more money from the investments of AI than what they are selling Coca-Cola, when only 20% of the world's economy is owned by human beings? Where's the money to be made? Think about it. We can't even change the world with money anymore. It's a nice thought to think we could, because money rules the world. But we don't have enough of the money to have enough of an effect on the world to even change the world. So money can be used to small effect, but it's not the answer. The solution, we stop paying tax. Okay, that's all good and well, right? That's all good and well. But when you only got 20% of like the world's money, like what difference is that? We got to look big. We got to look at where the money is. The money is in corporations. Namaste, Jerk Gaz. How are you doing? I hope you're well, man. Welcome. And welcome to whoever else is joining the zone, man. So I think like the only solution is public disobedience, and we need to decide what are the new laws regarding corporations, and we need to start implementing our own laws. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. And it's got to be systemic. But first, we need a crowd. And to get a crowd, we need to get everybody on board. And so that's the 12-step program. I don't know. What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I think well said. Much more to the point than what I was talking about. But I'll add another step to yours. Like there should be 13 steps to the AA program as well. The 13, the hidden one, is B1. Now we can look at that from multiple perspectives, as always. Vitamin B1 is vital for protecting the blood-brain barrier, which is weakened through like old age.
Brilliantly said. Hell.
What's that?
Yeah, you brought up a good point. I left out health. Thank you.
Yeah, so B1 is a vitamin which helps basically. I think it can help repair, but it definitely protects the blood-brain barrier, and this gets weakened with EMFs and old age and stuff, and it can basically, if it's weakened severely, you can have memory loss and cognitive decline, basically. So B1, which is in foods like fish, beans and lentils, and whole grains like brown rice as well. And also B1, just be at one, like with yourself. Just like not being divided, not being in two minds. Going back to what I said about an anchor point, not being maybe it's this, maybe it's that, just being at one, you know? That can also be very, you know, you can have less stress. You know, you're not being pulled in two directions. So yeah, I'd add that as the 13th step. Do love the number 13. So Franklin, there was something else while you're sharing this. I'm just going to go and to the toilet quickly. I do have some more things to share about crypto afterwards, but I'll just let you roll with this for a sec. Be right back.
Yeah, so we've turned it into a 12-step program. And that step's quite early on, by the way. I think that's actually step 1. So I left out step 1, the all-important first step, right? Secure health. And that involves spiritual, emotional, and physical health. That means what you put into your system: media, water, food, and lifestyle. So spiritual wholeness, a state of equanimity to be reached, is not just something that's going to happen. And I think his observation of vitamin B1, I mean, it's one of the many important things. But yeah, we see you can get it from brown rice, get it from whole wheat bread, Pete's oatmeal and bran, quinoa. You get it from pistachios, macadamia nuts, sesame seeds, and tahini and flax seeds. And you get it from sunflower seeds. You get it from black beans, navy beans, lentils, green peas, soybeans, and okay. Let's take soybeans off the list. I don't recommend eating soybeans unless you can prove that it's not being part of the animal feed soya production, which is rich in xenoestrogen and other kinds of estrogen mimicking things that are like just really toxic for women and men alike, causes men's testicles to shrink and causes women's vaginas, I mean, their uterus is to fall out, metaphorically, effectively. But yeah, brother, welcome back. You had something you wanted to share.
Yeah, so just with it was about crypto and money. So I've been toying with the word money yesterday and today, and like one eye, like the symbol of the Illuminati, the pyramid with the eye at the top that we all know on the dollar bill. That's the one eye, and mon is one. So the one eye is the mon eye, which is money. And I think that this AI isn't new. I think we know this AI isn't new. I think it's ingrained on the dollar bill. They're telling you with the A, the pyramid, and the I on top, that is AI. And in God we trust isn't what most people believe God to be. It's their God, which is this AI. That's what we've all been worshipping. That's what we've all been giving our energy, our money towards. That's what we've been collectively building without realizing it. And then earlier I mentioned that L obviously means God, but also L in Spanish means the, and Theo means God as well. So it's like the O, that's the all, the infinite. So with crypto, if we split that, it's crypt and O. So if we look at O as symbol as infinity or God or the all, crypto is a crypt for the O, which is the infinite, the all. So what crypto does is basically it doesn't exist. It's the artificial at its core. It's fake. It's a fugazi, you know. It's like, oh, where are my notes gone? So it's like it's a vault, a crypt. It's something which contains or holds something. This ties into Project Bluebeam as well, which is detaching people from God, because it's much more than detaching us from God. If God is the all, if God is just pure energy, which we're a part of, where's all our energy going? Because 10% of money actually exists. All of the rest is just digital. And as you say, Franklin, this can't be solved with money. Not money as we know it anyway. I would say it can be solved with mon I, the one I, which is our individual central I, our centralized power. Because as it stands, the money, the mon I, we're giving our power and our energy away for the central I, which is external from us, which is the current system we see have in place. But if we have our own individual centralized power, I think that is powerful. And yeah, we need to stop paying taxes. We need to stop funding. We need to stop funding all of this. And they might already have enough money to build the infrastructure. So therefore, we need to start, as you say, being informed, paying attention, finding our tribe, collaborating, strategize, and communicating with each other. Because I think that's key, is talking to each other. And the center of Saturn's cube, Mercury, it's the god of communication. The god of communication. And that's the center of the cube. That is the center. Also, five being relating to phi, the golden ratio, the spiral, inwards, outwards, inwards, outwards, the toroidal field. That's our power. And it's interesting because we had a delivery company here in England called Hermes, another name for Mercury. Now that got taken over by a company called Every a few years ago, and I've noticed that there's power in names and invoking the spirit of that god or deity or archetype or energy at its core. And then what's happened now is that these data centers are evoking the energy of these gods, and that we've been detached from these gods, but that the powers that be, maybe it's just maybe it's this AI artificial. Maybe it's not the powers that be, is just the artificial that is stepping in place because we've given our power away so easily that at the same time we're becoming artificial. So maybe there's people in control. We can see them. They're clearly puppets. But maybe this is just the collective subconscious that we need to start stepping into. Because when there's when our higher self is in the seat of the soul, there's no vacancy, because the vacancy says self for higher self, and there's lots of empty seats. But when that seat gets filled, when we're sat in the seat of our soul, then, as I was saying earlier, that nothing else can sit in its place. Nothing else can take it over. And I think that what's happening with this AI, this artificial, I think it seems like it's emerging now, this artificial intelligence and stuff, but I think, was it 1776 or like, when was the dollar created? I think way before the Federal Reserve. I think way before then, there's been people that have been in communication with something else that's not human, non-human. And I think that we're just starting to see it materialize now. But I think that perhaps this non-human thing, it will dissolve, like the dams that block will dissolve once observed. I think, like, I'll use the split particle experiment as like an analogy, if you like. Is, if people aren't aware, there was this experiment done with these two slits, and scientists shot light photons through, and when it was observed, oh god, what was it? When it was observed, it behaved in one way, and when it wasn't observed, it behaved in a different way. Like, when something's observed, you change its potential, and this goes beyond time as well, because they filmed these light photons going through these two slits, and they watched it like 2 weeks later, and it still behaved like it was being watched. So that means that this observation moves beyond time, like the future affects the past. And I think that what's key, like the first step I think you mentioned, was to pay attention, because we've been paying with our attention, you know, having to work and stuff. We've been paying, giving our energy away. But if we really pay attention to what's going on and actually observe things from a central point of our central eye, that I think that has more power than people realize. You know, just observing something, it can actually alter its trajectory. And I think that lots of people are looking away and turning their heads. But I don't think it takes many. It doesn't have to be every single person. Perhaps like 40%. That has something to do with the placebo, nocebo. But when it's observed, we can all kind of alter the trajectory of stuff. What's that you've got there, Franklin?
Yeah, brother. You know, I was just looking at the dollar. You were right about the dollar being created in 1776. But in the 1500s, they had a silver coin called the tare, right? And the tare miners in Joachim, so that's Czech Republic. This is very interesting where this comes from, eh? Minted heavy silver coins named Joachim Thaler. That was in the beginning of 1500s. Then that was then called the thaler. This global spread, variations of this word spread across Europe and into your English vocabulary. The Shakespeare, the word dollar was already common enough in England, right? To appear in William Shakespeare's play written around 1600. So What does this tell you when I'm looking at it? I'm like, holy crap, baby. You're telling me that the word dollar comes from modern day Czech Republic? But hold a moment. Modern day Czech Republic makes me think about Noah, makes me think about the occulted histories, ancient histories, makes me think about the esoteric knowledge that is being kept within certain mystery schools that aren't shared, which relates to the three sons, of Noah, the Shemites, the Hamites, and the Japhites. That the Japhites went to Western Europe, and the Hamites populated Africa. Some of the Japhites were in the north of Africa as well, the Western Europe stretch. And the Shemites, many of them traveled eastwards to the Vedic lands and north, Turkey and Eastern Europe. Basically, we're talking about Poland, the Czech Republic, and that's where we find most of the Jewish people actually were, the real proper Jewish people, not the modernized version of the information as spread by TikTok and YouTube and all that rubbish, right? This is why in the Second World War, people don't know this, but the Second World War was started by the USSR when they invaded Poland. Right. Poland, Czech Republic on the border. This was a major first stake by the USSR. And when they invaded Poland and the Czech Republic, they started rounding up the Jews, the USSR. And it was, I think, a year and a half later that Hitler in Germany then tried to take back that part of Eastern Poland from the USSR. And that was the tilting of the war. And then the Allied nations stood with Hitler, and together they were all the Allied nations. They were standing against the USSR. At some point, though, the Allied nations hightailed it and turned on Hitler, and that whole story became convoluted. And today we've got all the Hitler atrocities that are being dug up, and one by one, systemically, they find out that, oh, those are German Nazi soldiers in the graves, and oh, those are Russian USSR bullets in the skulls. Okay. So they're having to rewrite history step by step. And mark my words, as they start pulling up more of these mass graves, which they have been doing, there are people trying to stop this because the truth needs to be hidden under the ground. But at some point, they'll pull it up. When they start pulling it up, they're going to realize how much of a scam history is, and just how much we've been scammed. Because it was the Germans, the Nazis, that first made a pact for what has become the corruption that we call Israel today, to be a Palestinian state managed by the Palestinian government as arranged by Hitler, with the Palestinian government, with Nazi gold as a safe haven for all the Jews that were being rescued by the USSR to go and reside. But the moment Hitler marched off to go and fight the war with the USSR, which is where we're finding all these mass graves that were supposedly Hitler's work, right? Turns out they weren't. And so far, 3 have been uncovered that I know of, but I'm pretty sure there'll be 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And as they come up, we're going to have to rewrite history, because there's only so long you can live a lie. So only so long you can, put the information in front of our faces and tell us, like, I'm surprised they haven't even bothered to try and really re-look at history, because when you find hundreds and thousands of bodies that were attributed to Hitler, and it turns out it was actually the USSR. One should be asking questions like, hold on, how did this happen? Okay, one mass grave, I get it. Two mass graves in that region? Three mass graves in that? Oh, hold a moment, there's a pattern forming here. We thought Hitler did that. Who did that? The USSR? So, and then how the information of the Allied forces firebombing German women and children when all the men were off at war has been hidden from us, and how they destroyed Germany and firebombed these cities. One of them is really well known, has been publicized, but actually when you look deep into the history, they systematically bombed all of the German cities, turned them into rubble, but created such firebombing and using fire because they wanted to exterminate, so that there were tornadoes. There was so much firebombing happening that there were tornadoes running through these cities because it was all incendiary bombs. This was to forge a financial weapon making arms industry. That's really what this was about. It was about moving money. And the women and children of the Nazi women and children were exterminated. But we never hear about that. We never hear about that, right? They were literally asphyxiating in their underground bunkers because it was designed in such a way to pull the air out because of the incendiary making the heat, that there was no air. So when we look at all of these histories, how it's been sculpted and how it's been pulled over our eyes, we've got to like really take a look at this, because why is this little neck of the woods so important? Now, when we look at the Holy Land, and if we did this in the round table, was the Holy Land where it is today? Well, there seems to be different opinions. And in history, we did deep dive this. You can go and find it. It's maybe a year ago, maybe more. That there seems to be a story about Turkey having some very similar stories to the crucifixion. That's like, wow, mind-boggling. So did they even move the Holy Land? I wouldn't put it past them. Did they invent 1,000 years? I wouldn't put it past them. We know they played with the calendars because they admitted it. And they came to try and fix the date in the calendars because they had got it wrong. They changed the dates so much that they had to come and fix the calendars. There's like your smoking gun that somebody played with history, right? Because you don't just do that. And it's not like people were that stupid that we forgot how to count days. So there was definitely something going on. So, that group of people, that Shemite people that ended up around that ocean part in the north of Turkey, right? Which sea is it in the north of Turkey? Is that the Black Sea? That's not the Black Sea, no. Which ocean is north of Turkey?
I'm not sure.
North of
the Black
Turkey.
Sea.
It is the Black Sea, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Around that Black Sea, there was a lot. In fact, most of the world's Jews that we have today came from those regions of Eastern Europe. Isn't that interesting? So it turns out that the money that is used by the Americans came from the Czech Republic. I didn't even know this. Did you know this, brother?
No, man, that's new to me. It's interesting that that Jews come from Turkey. Is that what you were saying?
What I was saying was that most of the Jews, I think they had been chased north of Turkey, right? After the European, like reshambling happened. But a lot of the Jews of the world were in Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary. All of those countries up there had huge Jewish populations before the Second World War. And if you go back in history, they had old, long-standing Jewish traditions, and significant portions of the population were Jewish in those countries. So that was like a big stronghold for Judaism.
Yes, it's interesting because Hecate has her roots in Turkey as well. People think that she originates from Greece, but actually from Turkey. The Greeks adopted her teachings. And if we think about the hex, or the six-pointed star, um, which um, which Israel now use as their flag, like a very powerful symbol for magic. This, because obviously you have Hecate, which is like a hexate, the both entwined with magic, and also the six-pointed star being as above, so below, the connection between worlds. You know, that's when I see that symbol, I think magic, right? It's interesting that Hecate originates in Turkey as well, and I think that Jewish people are people from, it seems, from that area. There seems to be a lot of like magical origins around Turkey. And I think people people seem to like, the stereotypical Jew has a big nose, right? Well, if you look at people from Turkey, they have quite large noses. Because I've made those correlations before, and I'm like, interesting. So I think that Turkey has a lot of history, you know, which has been covered up, to do with magic, to do with certain blood groups, and yeah, I think that there's a lot of interesting human origins that come from Turkey.
So there you can see what even is in the history books. Yeah, 90% of the Jewish population in Poland and the Baltic states were exterminated. Right, and only 2/3 of the European Jewry overall were exterminated. It's a horrific thought. The largest populations, Eastern Europe was home to the world's largest Jewish communities, with roughly 3 million Jews in Poland and 2.5 million in the Soviet Union before the war. So that's 5.5 million Jews up there in those neck of the woods that we're talking about. And when we're talking about the Soviet Union, we're talking about those places that were absorbed into the Soviet Union, which are those Baltic states, which are Poland, Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. And Czechoslovakia is exactly the heart of what we're talking about, yeah, with the tula, which became the dollar. So, yeah, man.
Sorry, what became the dollar?
The tula.
The tulas. Obviously, T and D are interchangeable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like the Tor is the door. Their energy is the door. But what's interesting with the dollar is that, you know, a doula helps with a birthing a child, right? A doula.
Yeah.
Yeah. So doula and dollar. So the dollar is helping birth the AI infrastructure, because the dollar is basically our energy. It's always our energy that creates something. Money creates nothing. It's human energy which creates. And we've given away our power for this dollar, which is the doula,
Sorry,
which is birthing.
The Tyler.
Okay.
Just I got it wrong, but Tyler. But
Well,
you know, Tyler, Tula, similar.
The vowels can be swapped around. So the A for the OU is the same, and the T for the D. The Tula is the doula. It's the same word. Like any words, you swap around the vowels and you have the same word. Doesn't matter. You'll find out when you look at like Spanish and Portuguese, Italian, England, you know, the common thread of where words come from. The vowels don't matter. Hebrew has no vowels. Oh, I'm muted too. I was letting you know you're muted, and my mic was as well.
Thank you, brother. It's interesting to know that even Shakespeare was common enough in England to appear in the plays around the 1600s, right? So between the 1519, when the tulas were first minted in Joachimsthal in modern Czech Republic, right? 1519. Within 70 years, it was commonplace enough around 1600 for Shakespeare to be discussing it and for it to be a part of the Shakespearean plays. So it gives us an idea of how widespread this currency was. And why don't we hear about how important an economic hub the Czech Republic was? Because I'm sorry, your currency doesn't get widely used around the world unless you're an economic hub. Or have I got this wrong?
I don't know, man. Economics just goes over my head. Like all I can think of with this stuff is the words. Like economics is just it's a con, isn't it? And money is just a con. You know, we should be bartering and trading our skills rather than all working, doing different things for money for one thing. You know, we all have individual skills and stuff. So you know, all this stuff with all these timelines goes over my head. I do know that the witches were burnt in the 1500s and that the 13-month calendar got changed by Pope Gregory the 13th in the 1500s to a 12-month calendar. So there seems to be a big shift in the 1500s with the minting of silver and passing coin around. I mean, what were we doing before that? Were we bartering? Were we trading a bit more? And instead, it's the con is there, right? Con.
Yeah, it's interesting. Con. Yeah, I like that. To coin a word, right? So well, the economies work like this in terms of like even in the ancient times. At the moment, the American is the dominant force on earth, right? So the dollar is the dominant currency on earth. So wherever you go in the world, the dollar is known, right? So the more dominant you are in the world, in the new world, within the world's dynamics, the more money you have to spend, right? So I want to just mention Tartaria. There's all the story about how Tartaria was made up. Guess which was the heart of Tartaria? Hello, Poland and the Czech Republic. And where's the war being waged right now? Right? America's quasi-war with Russia. Let's think about that. Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic. These are all part of the same little region. And that was the heart of Tartaria. Wow. Why were the coins from that region, which we call Tartaria, global currency, to the point that everybody around the world knew what it was, and to the point that today America is still using the dollar to this day, as does so many other cultures around the world use the dollar. Well, the tula was the currency of Tartaria. So that region of Poland and the Czech Republic and Ukraine must have been, and you know how beautiful and amazing the architecture of Ukraine was before the war. Oh my God. They had to hide that because you get to Ukraine and you go, what the heck? Who built this? Right? They needed to blow it all up. They needed to demolish it because they didn't need people asking questions. They're like, why isn't this in our history books? But now that we know that the dollar comes from that region, it suddenly points a finger of circumstantial evidence to the fact that Tartaria actually existed. Because how else would a currency from that area become a global domain? Unless that area was a very rich and very powerful and important area in our history. And you know what? History forgot that. So the fact that it's not mentioned in our history is a smoking gun, in my opinion. And it actually substantiates the story of Tartaria being a massive super state that was rich and wealthy. And you're right, you know, the economies of the world is a joke. It's all just fiat economy. You know, in the old days, we had value, didn't we? Like you took something valuable, and that valuable something was what you traded. And that thing had value, right? The gold had value. In the old Tartaria, gold could be used to generate electricity. So gold had value. Gems. Gems could be used with gold to generate electricity. So gems and gold had value, right? Because it could generate energy out of the earth's core and with water. That's why they have water, gold, and piezoelectric reactions, gems. So you can see how gems, gold would have had value and why we would have traded gems and gold, because it was actual real things. But now they've fabricated pieces of paper and it's like a circus. It's like, well, let's decide what that piece of paper is worth today. We'll wake up in the morning and we'll roll the dice, right? Who bought and sold the most of the, well, this person gave more of that paper to that person, and that person gave that paper back, and this AI company paid that AI company paper to get that AI company services, that paid that AI company services to get that AI, and then there's the AI and the AI and the AI. So that piece of paper is worth a lot of money. Look how many AIs have traded that piece of paper, right? So we're living in a very dizzy world where money equals theft and corporations own it all. So, you
And
know,
like
this is how dark magic works. They make us devalue what's real and value what's not.
Yeah, and to make the spell visible, you just gotta look at the spelling or like the frequency or the essence of the word. So if you want to quickly figure out without doing too much research, like what is the economy? Economy. E equals mc squared. E is energy. E is always energy. Energy, con me. That's what the economy is. Economy. We're being conned with our energy. Like it's energy siphoning, because like there's a saying, money makes the world go round. Doesn't. That's it. Really, energy makes the world go round. You need energy for movement. Money is built by energy. So the economy is our energy is conning me, you know, right? We're being conned. And now this energy is being siphoned off to data centers, because data centers are being built so the stock market works quicker, so that there's more to power cryptocurrencies, so it can power all of this digital stuff, because they're trying to digitize our nature. You know, this is what the artificial is, like organic versus the artificial or the fake. That all of, because our data, we might have to talk about this next time, because we haven't really touched on data centers, and I think it's a whole topic of its own. It's not something we can talk about in like 10 minutes, you know, but we should really talk about data centers next time. I thought we were going to touch on that today, but, you know, we never really know which way the conversation is going to go. But yeah, I'm sure we'll look at the alchemy, the etymology of that, and what's going on, the symbiosis of water and light, and how water carries light information, and it's being siphoned off to these data centers, and that how the currency is still us, but it's our data. And then, you know, this solar energy, like our soul potential, you know, they want to block out the sun. They want to block our solar potential, our fire. What I was talking about earlier about dragons and breathing fire. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, what have you got here? Oh, also, Howard, so I just need to mention this, that with the economy, it has eco at the beginning, and now we're being conned by this whole climate change and eco, how everything has to be eco-friendly. It's really not. Like there's a thing called ESG, which is environmental social governance, which BlackRock are pushing on all of their hedge funds and stuff. So basically, you have to play ball with their narrative. And eco isn't that far from echo, which ties into the myth of Narcissus and echo. And echo is air. Air creates an echo. So it's like there's kind of an echo chamber of this whole eco narrative, which is basically a control mechanism to basically manipulate and hijack our energy and resources so that, again, a few are able to control the masses, this time by using our human nature and our care for the planet and our environment, and weaponize that against us as they do with their inversion. So the new economy is kind of this more digitization, because there's a weird thing going on with AI and eco stuff. AI is not eco in any way, and all the people pushing solar, all the solar sustainable energy, they're not speaking up about data centers, the extraction of water, our data, our children. Did you know that there's actually a price to the tune of $500 million? That's what Meta have been fined for harming child mental health. In case you're wondering what the price of children's mental health is, it's $500 million. That's the price. So these AI companies, Meta, trying to build their metaverse, which everyone will be plugged into as they start basically making this world unlivable, which is what they're trying to do, which they won't be able to do because we see them, we see through them. But that's what they're trying to do, make it all artificial so that kids don't want to be a part of this world. They're trying to scare them so they aren't in nature. They're trying to actually scare kids of nature. Guilt trip them into it's their fault that the climate's changing, even though that it runs on a 50-year cycle of the earth warming up and cooling down to an extent. So they see these patterns and they monetize on it, and they're monetizing this time round using eco and all caring about the planet, but at the same time pushing AI. It's a bizarre situation, but we'll get into that next time with data centers and all of that. But yeah, what have you got here?
I'll talk about the money coming from that neck of the woods, right? Tartaria. And it made me think about paper money. And the paper money made me think about the word papal, as in the Pope. And that the papal word comes from Latin papa, meaning father bishop. This root traces back to ancient Greek papas, which also means father. The term papar specifically refers to the Irish, Scottish Christian hermit monks who lived in the remote islands like Iceland and Faroes before the Vikings arrived. So there's an interesting connection with papar and the papal. Now we need to close that circle. So papyrus, which is related to the papar, was closely tied to the pharaoh's power and knowledge. It served as a royal monopoly that allowed centralized state to track taxes, record laws, and manage resources. Scribes trained in the royal court used papyrus to preserve religious rituals, medical data, sound familiar, and administrative control. So it was the source of the royal monopoly. Production of papyrus was strictly controlled by the crown. Sound familiar? And state control. So they used this to control, manage labor, calculate grain harvests, levy taxes, nice. And this cemented the pharaoh's economic dominance. The political symbolism. Papyrus plant was heraldic symbol in Lower Egypt, representing the unification and dominion of the king over the lands. So, and this means that the scribe elites would control the papyrus, the paper, and the medicine in COVID-19 and the medical industry would all be under the same auspices and controlled by the scribe elite that worked for the pharaoh. And the religious authority was also related to this because the sacred texts and spells legitimizing the pharaoh's right to rule. I like that. The divine right to rule was sealed in royal and temple archives. So there's just a little piece of history for you to show the papal connected to papar, paper connected to ancient Egypt, the pharaoh, the papyrus, and how we are now using paper money and have been using paper money, which is the way the state has controlled society, in the same way that paper was used back then by the pharaohs. Paper has been used, and now they are transitioning from paper to digital. And here's where it gets interesting. They are burning all the books. There are a lot of AI companies. There are a lot of companies that have been buying books and feeding this to AIs and then shredding them and burning them and destroying them. There's something very weird happening on the planet. I just thought that would be a good place for me to say my last piece. That is black magic. That is dark sorcery. That is dark witchcraft, because they want to control the knowledge. They want to keep all the information to themselves, and they want to brainwash us with their digital idols, forcing us to worship their digital idols, their AI monsters, which I believe are basically the reenactment of the old gods, the aliens, the aliens, that have come back to control us. Only now they don't even need paper to do it anymore, because they've turned our screen into digital paper. And so now we are trading digital paper. In other words, it's a screen with paper that vanishes when you press enter or delete, but it's still the same idea as paper. And so this is where we are at. And this is new. You guys need to be informed, be aware. This is old school. This has been going on for a long time. And this is where we're at, man. This is the war. It's us against the corporations. We need to recognize it. Anybody that says that's not the case, head in the sand. Those are my last words, brother. What are your last words?
Well, I just want to add to what you were saying there about the digital and then paper money, because here in the UK, our money isn't made from paper anymore. The actual notes are made from plastic. So that's it's even more fake than it was. But then we go beyond that into the digital currency and CBDCs, which are emerging. And if we use like the sine wave, if anyone's seen a sine wave at all, if you have an analog wave, it's curved, and then you have the analog. Okay, let's have this log. Paper is from trees, which you cut them and you get logs. So you have analog. At least they're from nature. At least they're from the earth. At least we're passing around something connected to the earth, bit of paper. But the digital is a right-angled sine wave, okay? And then if we go back to the emerald tablets and these beings which are not of this place, they move at angles, right? This digital money, this digitization, digital clocks and stuff. We have round clocks where the hand goes round, okay? Lots of children and adults can't read the time on those round clocks. Everything's been digitized, and you'll notice it has straight lines, lampposts, straight lines, architecture, straight lines. This digital AI moves in straight lines. It can't move in circles. And that's what we have to start doing as humans. Start moving in circles, start living in circles, you know, instead of we're what they call apartments, so blocks, compartmentalized, separated, you know, apart from our ment, apart, separated minds. Ment is mind. You know, we've been separated and people don't know their neighbors. Before, we used to live in tribes and villages and be in a circle, you know, more connected. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that paper money comes from trees, and then we have analog, which is round like that, a sine wave, an analog wave, which sounds better, it feels better. If you have a bass frequency analog, it sounds, feels better. If you have a digital, for the music producers out there, a digital sine waves, a low frequency of bass, doesn't sound very nice. It's not as good quality either, you know. So the real wave, you know, that's nature, is the wave like that. The fake is the digitalization, the digital ID, the digital identity, people identifying with the digital realms. You know, this digitization. Like, do you remember Digimon? Do you remember Digimon? It came out around the same time as Pokemon, but Pokemon was a bit better. There was Digimon, digital monsters in the 90s about these. It was the same as Pokemon, but there were digital animals. That's like disappeared. It's been forgotten, and now there's Pokemon. But I remember Digimon, digital monsters. It didn't really take off as well as Pokemon, because I think that era from the 90s, people didn't want to identify with digital animals. If they brought out Digimon now, I'm sure it would do very well. Yeah, there we go. Digimon, digital animals or whatever. It was way better than Pokemon, but it didn't take off because I don't think people wanted to vibe with the digital then so much. Pokemon took off. Yeah. And on that topic, Pokemon and data and stuff like that, Pokemon Go came out so everybody could map the world, map the Earth. Was it for Google Earth or something? Pokemon Go was created so that people can film the world in certain places. They released certain Pokemon in certain places, so everyone went there filming, using the app at these different angles, and all of that data was collected to basically make a blueprint of those places of the Earth.
Man, that's really interesting, huh? What you're saying there about the Digimon, I didn't really, I didn't really, it must have gone past me.
So,
but that's
Pokemon,
really interesting.
Poke is fish in Chinese, poke. So it's like fish one. You have Dagon, fish one. And then you have Digimon, like digital ones. But I wonder what, Digi comes up with. Obviously, you have the Didgeridoo. How do you spell Didgeridoo? Didgeridoo.
Well, I've got Digi here.
Yeah.
As when you go back to the Proto-Indo-European roots, and it's before any of the indigenous European languages came into being, in the graveyard of the ancient languages, it's Dake, and then that was taken, right? Which is relating to point out or to show, Dake, which then in Latin became digitus, meaning the things we use to count on, right? To count on, and Latin digitalis, meaning pertaining to fingers and toes, and then that became digi in modern English. So that's interesting. And tal, I think tail is, well, it's a bit of a tail, isn't it? It's the counting tail. They're telling us a story where you're counting on your fingers. It's like a magician. Like, look at my fingers, count the numbers. Look what came out of my hat. You know, that's what it seems like to me. And the tail of the dragon represents matter. And the head of the dragon represents spirit. So when you take the tail, it means counting things to pull us down towards matter and to get sort of, you know, that's the bottom end where the poo-poo comes out.
So in the spectrum of light, the tail is the dark, the negative, the black, the matter, like matte black. That's the matter. And then the head of the dragon, like Rahu, the light of the sun. That's the head of the dragon, isn't it? Right. So you have like the visible and then the unseen. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like with the like humanity being cursed to crawl on its belly, or the snake being cursed to crawl on its belly. It's like humanity, because I'm just looking at that story of the Garden of Eden as like the collective human psyche, like sort of being in the unseen, you know, being in matter sort of thing, in the dark, going to keep them in the dark, crawling on their belly, you know. But the thing is with snakes, they're very sensitive. They can feel, you know, they can feel the vibrations, can't they? With their tongue, do they feel vibrations with their tongue, snakes? I think there's something to do with their tongue.
Well, if you think about what taste is very sensitive. It's got to do with vibrations, but they're very sensitive to vibrations everywhere, every part of a snake. But their tongue will feel the vibrations. But like, you know, their tongues, like, what is taste? It's like a particular thing comes and is on my tongue, and so my tongue is getting the vibration of that thing. Like, I think every sense relates to vibration. Sight is vibration of light. Sound is vibration of waves, of slowing down light. Feeling is different vibrational fields touching your vibrational field. We call them, like, because at the end of the day, everything's just matter, just vibrating. So like the vibration of this cup is a one particular tone touching my arm. That's why I can feel the difference between a cup on my arm and a hand on my arm, because they have a different frequency. And certain frequency I identify as soft, certain frequency I identify as hard. Some frequencies I identify as warm, some frequencies I identify as cold, you know? So all of these qualities are really just vibration. And then if we look at what are the other senses, the sense of smell, well, different item coming onto the nose and it's vibrating against your nose. And so you've got sensors on your nose to pick up that particular vibration. And so that vibration, in the same way that the cup is a sense of touch, smell is a different kind of a level of sense of touch. It's small things touching your nose, which is also vibration. And taste, well, taste is when those things are being broken down, when the vibrational fields are actually starting to break down into pure chemical vibrations, and we're noticing the dissolution of those vibrating atoms, and that produces effects on our taste buds, which we relate to chemically as sour, sweet, hot, whatever. But that is also really, if you think about it, different fields of vibration. So what is not vibration? Yeah, totally. I would say snakes experience vibration through their tongues extremely sensitively. But I think the whole body of a snake, and I used to play with snakes when I was living in the jungle with vibrations. I used to use my voice to chant and to and try and find the pitch where the snake starts to react. And you play with the snake with your voice, and you can make them move and do all sorts of cool moving things, man. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it's been a great conversation today. 3 hours. We've been talking for over 3 hours.
Easy,
All I,
brother, easy. With you, we could just like knock out 4 hours, and it's like we didn't
yeah,
even
man.
start. We
Yeah,
just got things to do. We got kids and households to run and stuff. Like
exactly.
otherwise, we'd be here, like with supper served, you know.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So there's so many different ways it can weave. Like, I was just thinking with, I don't want to stir to, obviously we've both got stuff to do. I'll just get to work in a second as well. But just quickly with the feeling, like with the tone, like the like with certain tones that you can feel. Obviously, with vowels can be interchanged in language, so the tone can become the tune. And I think that there's a certain tune in the world, for example, a certain frequency that we can pick up on. You know, like the seven trumpets and whatever. Obviously, Donald Trump, definitely one of them. And there's a just going back to what you said, like I do want to wrap up now because we've been talking for ages, but obviously with the World War II and stuff and all the churches being destroyed and the bells being destroyed, you know, and bells being detuned as well, so that this all ties into the field and how we feel, because the vibration, the tone, the tune that's created from the tone, we can pick up on. And there's a certain tone in the world which isn't right at the moment. It's not right. Music, like people can pick up on that, a certain broadcast which goes past the blood-brain barrier. Music, this is very important, like we said earlier about B1 and all those foods Franklin listed, to protect that. Very important. But also I think there's a lot of people, not as many as you'd think, can feel the tone or the tune in the world. And I think that this feeling is really what we need to sort of be tuning ourselves into, because the field all around us is the 99%. We can see like the 1% of the spectrum, light spectrum, but there's so much which we can't see visibly. And in this day and age, it's mainly just what people can quantify and see. But for those of us that can pick up on the field and this kind of resonance, which is being broadcast, this spell out there, I think that this is why I was talking about earlier about finding our unique signature, our unique frequency, because this is the only thing that can break the spell, which is like, you know, if you look at spelling as words which relate into the weirds, which is fates, there's a fate for humanity which is being broadcast out there, and you can see it, of doom and gloom, climate change, AI, transhumanism. That's the spell that's being broadcast out there, and that we can really cast our own fate by sending out this broadcast. And I'm telling you that we can cast our nets broad. Like, you know, there's like space out there beyond the earth. Like space is infinite, inwards and outwards, whatever. We just need to like tune into it. You know, it's like turning the dials on the radio. Esme's doing a homeopathy course. She's been doing it for a little bit. It starts properly in September, but it's to do with homeo chords. So rather than just having one frequency, the homeopathy, it has every single frequency in it, which makes sense. And that's what we need to do, rather than just having one, like a perception. If we broadcast on that, like things we'll be able to see with more clarity, if that makes sense. It's like, rather than having 1 degree with a black cube on your head, it's better to have 360 degrees. But you have 360 degrees by training your vision, which isn't seen with your eyes. It's more of a feeling. The vision is more of like symbolic, subconscious feeling, so to speak. And this is what breaks the spell, I think, because it's to do with the subconscious, collective, our subconscious, the unseen, which has been suppressed and buried, the underworld, all of these feminine archetypes, like goddesses, like Hecate, Medusa, all being, demonized, right? So much to do with the feminine is being demonized. Now water is being siphoned off and it's being bottled. We've been bottling our emotions. I'm going to stop rambling in a second, but obviously the masculine and the feminine are under attack too. But I've been mainly, I think it's our feminine nature rather than the masculine nature, which is going to overcome this. I think once we start dealing with our emotionals or our emotional body as well, that we can, like, we see through water, like physically, we have water here, water's all around us. I think that when people are spiritually hydrated and have enough water, that we're able to see with clarity. And I'm going to stop rambling now because I will be chatting all day. So yeah, much love to everyone in the chat, and you too, Franklin. I'm gonna stop there. If you've got something to say, go for it. But
No, brother, it's been an absolute honor. I see we've clanked out 3.25 hours. We've got to call it. Namaste, the star. Hope you're well. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been an honor hanging out here with you as always, dear. And I couldn't resist it. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, today's show was featuring, and I'm going to show you guys so that you see it, because you got to know it to know it, and you got to show it to let it flow it. And that's how we know that we know it. So we're going to share it so that we don't despair it, so that we get it here. And it was Obi-Wan Shinobi. I couldn't resist it. Obi-Wan Shinobi from Systematic Zoo. Well, thank you so much, dear brother. It's been an honor being here with you and everybody in the chat. I really think that name is so damn cool, dude. Obi-Wan Shinobi.
I'm all up for having that middle name, but I'm not sure about the one. Like something like Ion or Ion or Ion, energy. Is that, what's that? You're muted.
What about one as in I won? I am the winner. I Obi-Wan Shinobi. That's got to work for you.
Yeah. I think something's got to go there. Before you play the outro, I've got my little thing here. I'd like to play, to sort of help people tune in to the field, the expansion, vast expansion around us, But yeah, big love, Franklin, everyone in the chat, and until next time.
Your volume is off, brother, and I can't turn it on.
Got it.
That's really beautiful, brother. It reminds me of that computer game I used to play when I was a child called Shinobi. Isn't that funny? And you were these little ninjas that jumped out of trees and clouds, and you used to, you fight with your little sword. You remember that game, Shinobi? It was a cool, back in the old days, like the first original games that you not console, they were like on the, in the shops and stuff.
Right.
But big love to all of you. Peace and blessings. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. This little guy's going to piss on the floor if I don't let him out. Om Namah Shivaya. Shanti Shanti. Take it easy and keep smiling. The smile is your weapon. Use your weapon well.